So, yes, once again, welcome on in, and let us continue with Higurashi. When They Cry, Chapter 8, Matsuribayashi. And almost forgot to put this, turn the sound back on. Okay, trying to remember. I know some of the last stuff we opened up last time was basically involved there's the murder of the foreman, and then there's Irie basically doing vivisecting a dude. So let's see. Okay, not that one. Satoshi-kun is a good brother who takes great care of his sister. He went to visit Satoko-chan straight after school and kept encouraging her to get better every day. Without even hearing Satoshi-kun's stories, it's obvious to me that Satoko-chan never had a good relationship with her step-parents. So yeah, this is Irie. She especially didn't get along with her stepfather. Satoko-chan even called a child abuse hotline once. Only that, her parents ended up dying in an accident, so she just wasn't able to withstand all that damage. Satoko-chan is still very young, so everything must have been horrible for her to go through. Fortunately, she has a wonderful brother. Emotional wounds are hard to heal, but nothing heals those wounds better than love from family members. Sure that one day Satoko-chan will be able to smile again. She's still in shock, but when she talks to Satoshi-kun, she smiles a bit. Oishi from the police department keeps requesting to see her, but I think I need to protect her for just a little longer. While he's passionate about his job, I wish he'd be a touch more sensitive. If he reminds her of her parents' accident, her emotional wounds will start to open again. That's the one point I worry about with Satoko-chan. I heard someone knocking on the door. That was not a knock, that was Discord. Just forgot to close it down. My bad. I heard someone knocking on the door. It was Takano-san. Doesn't look right wearing a nurse's uniform like that. She's a licensed doctor, so she should wear a white coat and act like one. Maybe this is fun for her, but I think she might be insulting the real nurses. I didn't say anything, though. Dr. Irie, may I talk to you? Oh, yes. Satoshi-kun, if you'll excuse me. Sure. Hello, Satoshi-kun. Please keep Satoko-chan company. She's always alone, so I bet she's lonely. Okay. No, that's not true. Okay, Satoshi-kun, you're in charge. I got up and let Satoshi-kun take over. Did something happen? Not right here. Let's go to your office. Hehe. Takano smiled meaningfully. Usually smiles bring happy feelings. When it comes to Takano-san, that's really the case. Every time Takano smiles, a puppy dies. Are, are you sure? Yes. So test results show there's a possibility she's at L3 or above. We need to keep her here and run some more tests. The results aren't in yet, but from what I can see, it's very possible that she's at L4. Takano's eyes sparkled in a weird way. There's a reason for that. For us, finding patients in the terminal stage is a valuable boon to our research. In fact, as a result of dissecting the murder suspect from last year, we've made great progress in our research. In other words, we finally managed to isolate the pathogen. We also discovered that when the host dies, the pathogen melts away within a few hours. Once that happens, it's undetectable. That's why we never found the pathogen when we performed autopsies. Our research made a lot of progress after that. What we found in this past year has easily surpassed what the late Dr. Takano found in decades. We're now studying the nature, the effect, and the symptoms of the pathogen, as well as treatments and vaccines. In other words, a living specimen who's at the terminal stage is a necessity for our research. However, we rarely find a patient who's gone that far, who's reached L5. Inami's syndrome once created huge numbers of L5 patients, but today it doesn't have such potency. Because of that, we have to secure L5 patients, or patients who are close to reaching L5 as quickly as possible. Satoko-chan possibly qualifies to be that next sacrifice. To keep this strange disease a secret, we can't let patients who may be at L5 go. We have to run more tests first, then we'll figure out what to do next. In any case, Satoko-chan seems so calm. Her behavior is nothing like the man from last year. Initial tests are in error sometimes. We'll have to wait for the results of more detailed tests to determine how serious her condition is. Okay, let's admit her for observation. Please let the staff know to get things ready. That sounds like a formal answer, but if the results come back positive, that will be the green light for a dissection. I don't know Satoko-chan that well, but I've known her brother Satoshi-kun through the baseball team for a long time. How could I dissect the apple of Satoshi-kun's eyes? I can feel scary images flashing in my head for the first time. Hehe, don't worry. Everything is already taken care of. She smiled as if telling me that the dissection is already being prepared for too. Is it just her who's smiling? Am I smiling like her too? When I dissected that man last year, I did feel guilt beforehand. Once I started, it was like I was in a paradise. All the pieces of the puzzle that were left by late Takano fell into place. At the same time they didn't. How exciting it was. Knowing that we are the first ones to take the first steps to solve a mystery, that is. I don't even know how to explain this feeling to those who've never experienced it. There's no way to describe it with words. The thing I can say is that even a year later, I still remember it vividly. So if the results show that Satoshi-kun's beloved sister is to be dissected, can I control myself? Can I stay calm? But that means I'm a failure of a human being. I know very well that the Haojo family was treated poorly by the villagers, and I know what Satoko-chan had to go through. I also know Satoshi loves his sister, who is his one and only blood relative. How can I dissect Satoko using my research as an excuse? I didn't feel much guilt for the man from last year, but I feel unbearable guilt towards Satoko-chan. That means what I did last year was very sinful. I don't care if a stranger dies, but I don't want Satoko-chan to die. That's not right. All lives are equally precious. I tried to convince myself that he was a violent murderer, but maybe he only became that way because he was at the terminal stage. I don't know anything about him before he became deranged. Maybe he was a model citizen who was worthy of respect. Unfortunately, he became ill and ended up doing what he did. Maybe he was a victim himself, just like my father. I know more about Hinamizawa syndrome than anybody. This disease makes people act in bizarre ways, without those people realizing it. So when the people at the terminal stage do such strange and violent things, no one should be sympathetic. I already knew that back when I decided to go down this path. I should have remembered it sooner, but I only did just now. I've only realized what sinful research I'm working on. Satoko Haojo's detailed test results came back. The results say L5. She's at the terminal stage of the terminal stage. It's actually a surprising result. In last year's case, the patient was extremely deranged. According to Takano-san's records, complained about itching coming from the lymph nodes all over his body, and wanted to claw at his throat just as the late Dr. Takano mentioned. But Satoko wasn't displaying such symptoms. Even in the late Dr. Takano's data, throat clawing is said to be a characteristic symptom of terminal stage patients. However, not all patients experience that symptom. Besides, emotional expression is very different in each person. Even if it's the same emotion, one patient may express it rather violently and another may express it calmly. There's no way of knowing by just looking at a person. But Satoko-chan's detailed test results say that she's at the terminal stage of the terminal stage, L5. In other words, she may be feeling what the man from last year was feeling. It's just that she isn't expressing that feeling in the same way the man was. Hinamizawa syndrome affects the frontal lobes of the brain. It stimulates the most primitive emotions, doubt, very strongly. As a result, terminal patients are trapped in delusions and paranoia, and end up committing horrible crimes. Satoko-chan seems to show improvement when she's exchanging friendly words with Satoshi-kun, but there's a paranoia stirring inside her that may put her in a deranged state at any moment. I can't let her leave the clinic like this. However, if things go according to the manual, I will have to make a decision on her dissection. My decision will only be a formality. I can't actually refuse. Takano appears to already be working on the dissection schedule. That plan will then come to me. Would I feel the same way while dissecting Satoko-chan? Would I be able to experience that trance once again? No. The question is, can I fight the temptation? As I pretend to question myself, I'm letting Takano prepare things on her own. By doing so, am I passively agreeing to Satoko-chan's dissection? Yes, you are. Possible I want to save Satoko-chan. I don't want her to be a sacrifice for this research. I don't want to dissect her. And what about the man from last year? Do I only care about the people I know? If I don't dissect her, do I let her live and leave the clinic? Do I simply wait for her to become deranged and commit a horrible crime? And then she'll end up here, just like the man from last year, and I'll end up dissecting her anyway. The man from last year was dissected alive, and kept that way for several months. Damn! The hell, Yurie? With the skull left open, he wasn't allowed to die for several months. He was kept alive just for our cruel experiments. I don't want to do that to her. I don't know what to do. Even debating and agonizing over it is leading toward consent to her dissection by elimination. Also, please stop using the word dissection. That's called vivisection. It's bothering me on two fronts, frankly. One, because it's just incorrect by definition, and my OCD brain is like, no, you're using the wrong word. And it's not like it's a crazy, super obscure word. I mean, it's somewhat, but there are much more obscure words. Also, it just feels trying to put a wall of separation from the act itself by hiding it with words. by not using the proper term. Because dissections are all the rage. Vivisections are war crimes. Or crimes against humanity, so, yeah. Okay, let's see. Let's see. This one, I think? A group of boys are playing baseball under the powerful sun. The sound of cicadas makes the heat stand out even more. But to those boys, it's just another kind of cheering from the crowds. Of course, they go through training exercises to build stamina, but the boys don't actually like such routine activities. What they look forward to the most is the free game after practice. The school in Hinamizawa is actually borrowed from the Forestry Service. The schoolyard is made of gravel, so it's not very appropriate for playing sports on. Oh, wrong button. I hit the wrong arrow key. Compared to that, the grounds at the school in Okinomiya are properly maintained for athletic activities, so the kids grow even more energetic when they come here. Kids from Hinamizawa really don't care if the ground is made of gravel or not. The other instructor is watching the game, so I decide to go get some drinks for the team. Coach, where are you going? I thought I'd get some drinks for everyone. Do you mind helping me, Satoshi-kun? Oh no, not at all. Satoshi-kun decided to come along with me. Sometimes kids don't like what grown-ups choose, so I'm glad he agreed to help. Satoshi and I got in the car and headed to the grocery store nearby. Manager, how is Satoko doing? Well, she's doing fine. Although it's an extremely slow process, her emotional wounds are healing. I think we should let her rest for a little longer. It's natural for Satoshi to be worried. Satoko-chan has been in the hospital for over 2 weeks. Of course, he doesn't know his sister has Hinamizawa syndrome. Not only that, she's almost at L5. She could become deranged at any moment. He believes she's depressed because of the shock of her parents' accident. He came to the clinic every day to cheer his sister up, but Satoko has become emotionally unstable and was showing some dangerous symptoms, so we called off the visits. In fact, Satoko-chan is not doing so well. L5, the stage Satoko-chan is at, is a very abnormal one. The man from last year who was at the same stage was acting so abnormal that even a drug addict in his final stages would have turned and ran. There's no guarantee Satoko-chan won't fall into the same condition. When we performed the autopsy on that man last year, we learned the true identity of the syndrome and gained a great understanding of its mechanisms. We even discovered some important facts that may lead to the development of a cure. However, we have yet to find a method of actually curing the disease. So Satoko becomes unrecoverable. We may have to dissect her, just like we did the man from last year. How can I tell Satoshi about his sister's situation? All I can do is make vague comments and lie to him that she's recovering. What if she becomes much worse? That would make me an unforgivable liar. A tiny bit of conscience that remains in me hurts. If it's okay with your clinic, can she stay there a little longer? Why are you saying that? I thought he wanted her to come home as soon as possible, so I'm a little surprised. Well, actually, Satoko doesn't get along with our aunt. I heard she didn't get along with her parents. But she can't get along with your aunt and uncle either? Satoko doesn't open up to grown-ups. Satoshi has told me about their family background. Their mother's constant remarriages wounded her children deeply. Satoshi was able to overcome it, but Satoko was too young to be able to do that. That left her traumatized, and she now has the tendency to distrust or dislike guardians who aren't related to her. Actually, nobody would like a guardian who isn't related to them. It's not just Satoko-chan, but usually people try to deal with that even if they don't like it. I guess Satoko-chan's not capable of that. Our uncle isn't home much. Besides, he's either sleeping or watching TV, so he's not the problem. But our aunt really goes after Satoko. Why doesn't she like her? I can guess why. Satoko-chan's parents were damn proponents, and because of that, the villagers considered the aunt and uncle part of the Houjo family and ostracized them as such. Moreover, they passed away suddenly in an accident and left 2 children behind, so I guess there would be more hate there than gratitude. If she had been obedient like Satoshi, everything would have been fine. But Satoko can't be that way. She shows that in her attitude and expressions, which leads to her and our aunt having a big fight. I've told my aunt about Satoko's situation, but she just can't understand. I think you're a great big brother, Satoshi-kun. You're the one and only relative Satoko has left now. Right, I feel that way too. Satoshi said with a slight hint of a sigh. He doesn't say it, but it seems Satoshi-kun has grown tired of having to cover for Satoko every time she and her aunt fight. He's a good person as well as a good big brother, so I'm sure he'll do anything to cover for his sister. But that's a very exhausting thing to keep doing forever. Satoshi was already doing that when their parents were alive. Welcome in, Sophie. Thank you for the fluid check. And eventually, his mental equilibrium couldn't handle the strain. He grew sick and he visited my clinic. This is from the perspective of Dr. Irie right now. And this is before... just a bit after the death of Satoko and Satoshi's parents. I thought his circumstances might have improved after the initial cause. His parents were gone, but it seems things were even worse than before. Understand, I can't release Satoko-chan if things are like that. Her symptoms may return again. Don't worry about the hospital fees. I'll make sure Satoko-chan truly recovers. While trying to pretend I'm listening to his request, I feel a little disgusted at myself for making such selfish excuses. I'll make sure. Takano is working on our dissection plan as we speak. If that's possible, that'll help me too. What? I mean, Satoko stays in the clinic a little longer, then I can relax as well. That's all. What do you mean? Soon as Satoko comes back, I know she'll get into fights with my aunt again. But it's back to those days of constant fighting and screaming again, and I'll probably get dragged into it too. So if Satoko were hospitalized for a very long time, that would be the easiest on me. But when I think like that, I hate myself. Satoshi-kun. Satoshi is a great big brother who always sticks up for his little sister. But that doesn't mean he doesn't feel burdened. To think things like that. What a terrible big brother I am. The more I think that way, the more I hate myself. Satoshi said, sniffling once. His expression was one of anguish, as if truly feeling his own sin. His desire to be a model big brother is putting himself under greater pressure. I feel bad for Satoko, but I also feel bad for Satoshi in a different way. As someone who knows the both of them well, I feel that I must be their ally, since they don't have anyone else who cares about them. Alright, another one. Let's see. I think this one? Nope. Yeah, I figured that one probably wouldn't be it. Maybe this one? No. Aha, I found it. Furude-san, thank you for waiting. We just finished the last test. She'll be back soon. Hope she's able to help. Of course. Rika-san will help the whole village. I think we'll be able to come up with a treatment soon. We're still looking into the structure, but we're finding out how important Rika-san is to the villagers. People with more serious conditions can't stabilize themselves. But we found out if they get close to the Queen Carrier, they generate some kind of substance in their brain. This substance has a calming effect. It seems to have the power to bring their symptoms down. If we can produce this substance, it'll end up making for a powerful treatment. I see. Rika has that kind of power. Hehe. You shouldn't be surprised. People say that maidens of the Viridian Shrine have the psychic power to calm both souls and demons, don't they? Before we discovered it, it's already recorded in the history of the last few hundred years. That's true. I'm impressed with how wise people were back then. I guess we're doing it from the perspective of Rika's dad now. Meep. Tests are all done. Rika, good work. You must be getting tired. Why don't you take this and go get something to drink? Meep. Took a lot of my blood, so I need to replenish. Rika took the 100 yen coin that was offered to her and ran out into the hallway. I appreciate Rika-san's help. she hadn't offered her assistance, our research wouldn't have progressed this far. Rika is very concerned about her friend with the syndrome, that she wants to help because of her. Doctor, please take Rika's feelings into account. Of course. We're taking up her precious time every Sunday, so we'll make sure to get to the bottom of this. We may have to put her through some rather rough experiments, but I hope you'll understand. We'll never harm her in any way, though. She's such an important person. She's the reincarnation of Oyashiro, after all. I wonder how people back then found out about this syndrome, and how they knew the Frude family were the descendants of the Queen. I'm truly impressed. By the way, there's something I have to ask you. I would like to ask you for permission to collect her cerebrospinal fluid. Also, there's a chance that we'll have to drill a hole in her skull to examine the inside of her head. A hole in her skull? Of course, we'll take every precaution. Rika-san is the one and only queen carrier. We'll make sure that she's safe. Her safety is our priority. Of course, since Rika-chan is a girl, we won't shave her entire head. However, we'll have to ask her to stay at the clinic a little longer so we can keep our eyes on her. She can still receive visitors, of course. You're more than welcome to attend the examination. I'm sure she'll be more relaxed to have someone she knows nearby. Do you really need to perform this examination? Is it really safe? I can't absolutely guarantee your safety for either collecting cerebrospinal fluid or for drilling a hole in her skull. There's always the off chance something might go wrong. Also, Rika-san may suffer from some physical and emotional discomfort. Even if it's this important, we can't perform it without the parents' consent. Some physical... Hey, did you know that if you get... Because cerebrospinal, that would basically be the spinal tap, right? So did you know that getting a spinal tap and having a hole drilled in your skull might potentially cause some physical discomfort? Doc, I know you have to put things softly, but seriously. Literally my worst fear. Oh yeah. Ooh. 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 Gives me the heebie-jeebies. There's like one scene in a movie, like, you know, like it's like a horror movie type thing. I think it was like was it The Taking of Deborah Gray or something like that? Something along those lines. The Taking of Deborah. Okay, you know the same thing. Yes, and they have like there's a scene where they do like a spinal tap or whatever, and it's just ooh. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, in high school I knew a guy who had to get like, because in his younger kid he like had, I think it was like leukemia or something, and you know he was in remission or whatever, but of course they had to take like routine, like, you know, examinations to check through that, and that was one of the things they had to do, was to take, yeah. So remember there like being one, it was like very soon after like one, and he was in class but he was just out of it, understandably so. He was like, yeah, and everyone was like, yeah. Ugh, anyway. So I've already talked to Rika-chan about it. What did she say? She said that it's fine. Hehe. Once again, every time Takano smiles or laughs, somewhere a kitten dies. I'm pretty sure. I've explained to her the possibility of danger, but we still need your consent. Sometimes, Rika truly believes that she's the reincarnation of Oyashiro-sama. So maybe she feels obligated to sacrifice. She feels obligated to sacrifice herself for the villagers. What an impressive child. Could you please let me talk to my wife? She understands the situation, but I still need to explain it to her. Sure, of course. Please talk it over with her. So, this examination is an extremely important step. The process of stamping out the syndrome, right? Yes. Solve the mysteries of Inuizawa syndrome for sure. At least it'll be the first step. As I already explained, if something happens to the Queen Care, the whole community here may be in danger. In other words, it's possible the whole village could end up with terminal symptoms. That's right. In this studies, within 8 hours of death of the Queen Care, everyone at the disease will become dangerously sick. We must prevent that from happening no matter what. Something happens to Rika, the whole village will go insane. Yes, it's our job to prevent that. It might seem ironic that we have to put your daughter in danger, but this is the only way to stamp out the syndrome. Dr. Irie, hope you'll succeed in that examination. As I said, there are no guarantees in medicine. Sure. Irie answered with a nod, interrupting Takano's vague response. Succeed. I'll save Rika-san. And the villagers too. I promise. Okay. I'll talk to my wife. I'll let you know our decision. Yes. Thank you. After Rika and her father left, Takano started to laugh. What is it? It's so funny. An entire litter of kittens just died. I'm pretty sure. Just by that. Oh, nothing. I just thought it was amusing to get permission from both the patient and their parents beforehand. Rika-chan is going through something she doesn't have to. I thought I should as a courtesy. I would have gotten consent from the man last year, had he been in normal condition. Are you being tormented with guilt ever since you started your research here? What do you mean? This type of teasing was normal from Takano, but maybe she had gone a little too far. Iria made it clear how displeased he was to hear that. You can only research Inuizawa syndrome by using living beings. You feel guilty continuing your work because of that. Those guilty feelings are a necessity. Whether it's a murder or a dissection, the fact that you're taking someone's life is the same. We have to accept that, but at the same time devote ourselves to research. That's an extremely impressive theory you have there. Then, Dr. Irie, how many times have you gotten consent before you cut into people's brains? Irie didn't think Takano knew about that. How many brains have you cut up without consent, using your selfish theory that people commit crimes due to mental disorders as the excuse? That is... Common sense changes with time. Back then, doctors didn't need to explain anything or get consent beforehand, so I don't think you have to be concerned about the past. Be a problem now, but it was okay back then, so that's fine. But you feel guilty, and that's why you want to get consent from Rika-chan beforehand, and why you want to get it from him, right? Takano is going into a more subdued version of Al Pacino and Devil's Advocate. But that's not true. In the first place, the treatment and dissections are... Listen, boy. What you want is the stamp of forgiveness known as prior consent, right? What you want is some stamp of forgiveness, some deception to fill your heart so you can atone for your past sins. If you regretted what you've done, then you'd never get involved with brains again. that you are dragging regrets behind you as you continue to deal with brains, guilty all the while. If you would acknowledge your actions as a sin, then you would have refused to accept the appointment as doctor. Isn't that right, boy? I don't need to listen to this. Excuse me. You must listen. The field of medicine is constantly won in battle against that era's ethics and societal values. When Dr. Takano discovered the existence of the syndrome, the people in power at the time disregarded their own ignorance and scoffed at his foresight. But he didn't stop researching until it collapsed. He believed that someday he'd be acknowledged. Even if it was after he died, he still believed in it. He could do all that because of how strong his conviction was. If it wasn't for that, he would have given up. A strong will is what keeps research going. Only the most determined can achieve a result. But you don't have that. You're a coward who still can't decide if he should be proud or ashamed of his achievements. How could you accept the position of director with such half-hearted determination? You knew from the beginning that this research couldn't be brought to fruition without adding further blood to your already stained hands. I don't know what to say. Maybe I am half-hearted. Then why don't you resign? You'll still have the obligation to keep things secret, but at least you won't have to feel guilty anymore. You may be my partner, but you're also simply a person who is requested by my client. Now that this research institute is fully developed, you aren't needed. If you don't even have the necessary determination to do research to begin with, you're an especially useless partner. I'll never quit researching. I'm not afraid of guilt or regret. My conviction is what will take me to the future. Just like Dr. Takano succeeded, I'll succeed alone. That's impressive. However, though my determination may not come close to yours, I too have a will, and that's why I'm here. As you said, I already have blood on my hands. Arrived in Himizawa, they got even bloodier. So I can't just run from my responsibilities. I'll probably continue to be tormented by unatoned sins. But I won't run. I'll get to the bottom of Hinamizawa syndrome. That's the least I can do for all the people who gave their lives for this research. And also for those who will give their lives from now on. Yurie wore a determined look on his face. He appeared different from even a moment before, when he was baffled by Takano having brought up those painful memories. For a short while, Yurie's eyes displayed his strong will, and then he turned around. We'll probably get consent for Rika-chan's examination, so please start preparing for it. Yes, I understand, Director. They got their consent the following week. Okay, let's see. This one? Aha! Plans for Satoko-chan's dissection are moving right along. I don't want Satoshi-kun to be sad. I feel pity for Satoko in our harsh circumstances. I'm still struggling with how much I have to sacrifice for the sake of research. Irie? Sorry. What is it, Rika-chan? One of my friends has been in the clinic for a long time. Do you think she has Hinamizawa syndrome? Who told you that? No one. I just thought about it. So what do you think, Irie? Does Satoko have Hinamizawa syndrome? Rika-chan is on our side. There's nothing I have to hide from her. Actually, I probably shouldn't keep anything from her. Yes, the problems with her parents and then their sudden deaths. It was all too much for her to bear. Maybe that was what triggered it. What did the test results say? L5. She seems perfectly fine on the surface, but her emotions are extremely unstable. Since the other day, she's even been refusing to meet with Satoshi-kun. Satoshi told me. He's worried that it's taking a very long time for Satoko to get better. Irie, what will happen to Satoko? Satoko is Rika's best friend. How can I tell her that we're planning to dissect Satoko-chan? However, even if I don't say anything, she already knows that Satoko-chan's situation is extremely poor. Didn't you find out a lot of things when you examined me? Sure, of course. We're even testing medicine which might be able to control the symptoms. Can't you give that medicine to Satoko? I thought about it, but it's too dangerous. We're still in the trial stages and trying to gather more data. We can't use it on someone who's in a delicate situation like Satoko-chan. Then, I won't try that medicine. What will happen to Satoko? She spoke as if aware of our plans for Satoko-chan. No, she must actually know. I have told her about most of my research. She's more mature than she looks, so it'd be easy for her to figure out. There's even a 1% chance of Satoko getting better. Then I think we should take that chance. It's extremely risky. Worst case, she could display terminal symptoms and hallucinate, or potentially lose her consciousness and spend the rest of her life just staring blankly at a wall. Either one would be too cruel a fate for her. So are you saying it's better for her to die in her sleep? Irie, just like Takano says, there are no guarantees in medicine. But if we don't do anything, Satoko will die for sure. I think it's clear what we should do. That's true. You're right. But I know too well. C103, the medicine that's being tested, may not even be something that can be used. It may not even have a 1% chance of success. Worse, I can't even imagine what kind of tragic end she'd meet if her body rejects the medicine. That's why I'm tempted to believe it would be far more merciful to feed her favorite food, let her gently fall asleep, and after that, dissect her while she dreams. I don't want to admit it, but Takano is right. I'm being indecisive and showing a lack of resolve. How effective could the medicine made by someone like that really be? So, because it was medicine I created myself, I couldn't even believe there might be 0.1% chance of success. Think we can believe in it. She spoke as if she read my mind. Surprised, I raised my head up to look at her, and found her giving me a reassuring look I never would have imagined someone her age capable of. People's lives depend on your job. It's almost absurd that a human being could control life and death like that. I can't even imagine the pressure. Her voice hasn't changed, but I felt like Rika-chan is admonishing me, almost as if she knows what it's like to be responsible for human lives. Guilt and regret are a part of that. That's why you can't use the medicine on Satoko. Isn't that right? Takano said the same thing when she criticized me earlier. I'm being criticized again. But that's why I can trust you as Satoko. What? Human lives are precious. You understand that well, but that's why you do what you do. Without knowing that, how could you heal people? Do you think I trust medicine created by Takano, who thinks humans are just her guinea pigs? Hehehe. I shouldn't have laughed, but I couldn't help it. I felt like I should laugh. Both you and Takano each produce different medicine. I think yours would be the one to cure her. Because your medicine came from your heart. Your will to heal people is what cures them. You're absolutely right. I can't believe you're admonishing me about medicine. I let you use my body for Satoko. Everything you took out of me is for her. If you create that medicine with the knowledge of how precious human lives are, of course it'll work on Satoko. Do shrine maidens take confessions? If they do, she's doing a great job being a shrine maiden at this age. This will be gamble. Question is whether Satoko-chan will accept it. See, you don't need to tell her. Learning of the Hinamizawa syndrome will only dredge up the deep scar in our heart again. Okay, no, it was Rika that said that. What did she mean by those words? When I realized it later, I was surprised by how thoughtful and perceptive she was. Let's stop plans for the dissection. Going to give Haojo Satoko C103. I'll do my best to increase this chance by even 1%. Don't worry, Irie. It'll work. Haha. You shouldn't be so optimistic. I know it'll work. It's already decided. That's a very reassuring prophecy for the Frude Shrine's Shrine Maiden. You can do it. Yeah. Okay, so then that means this one, I think. C103's implementation on Satoko is going well so far. It wouldn't make any difference to me if the experiment failed. However, Irie's extraordinary focus and attention to the experiment has avoided Satoko Haojo hallucinating or turning into a vegetable during the experiment. This is probably Takano's log, I'm guessing. Surprisingly, we see prospects of her returning to normal life despite reaching L5. C103 still has many issues, but this experiment proved that even a person who has reached L5 can be cured. I don't believe in it at first, but I guess I have to acknowledge Irie's hard work. Only Irie could have done this. He was tormented by naive humanism and didn't want to make mistakes. And that was why he felt obligated to cure Satoko Haojo. The reason why I dislike Irie isn't because of achievements or abilities, but because of that weakness. But this time I had to praise him for it. I saw your report. Just tip my hat to you. No, I only did my job as a researcher. If that means fulfilling my duty as a doctor as well, then nothing could please me more. It's hardly an exaggeration to say that Satoko is now our most valuable specimen. After all, she's the first human to reach L5 and live. That's true. We'll let her go back to her life and keep our eyes on her. I'm going to tell her to come here every Sunday for a checkup. But how are you going to explain to her that she has to give herself a C103 shot 3 times a day? Also that she has to come here every Sunday. She has no subjective symptoms. I'm still trying to come up with a good excuse. I think I'll tell her that I want her to help me with my research. She has to give herself shots daily and to come here every Sunday for a checkup. I'll pay her for helping me or something like that. I guess Irie is determined to cure Satoko Haojo no matter what. He seems determined to keep her off the dissection table. He and I are in different positions, but I don't have any complaints about his naive ideals so long as they translate directly into passion for our research. If his plans will be put into effect and produce a different result than this section would, then he'll still be useful to the overall understanding of Hinamizawa syndrome. I have nothing against Satoko Haojo. It's only that I see her as a research specimen. Yep, this is definitely Takano. She can be useful in that capacity without even being dissected. That's perfectly fine with me. We have to get permission from our guardian to give her shots 3 times a day. Her parents died. Her aunt and uncle have been taking care of her, right? Maybe I'll go talk with them. They can agree to her involvement in such suspicious research. Don't worry. Sure they'll be happy to, once they realize they'll receive 100,000 to 200,000 yen every month for it. Do we have enough money? Sure. As long as we can produce documents that'll convince Jiro-san. Okay, then I'll work on that. Also, we'll need to take action to prevent stressing Satoko-chan. We don't want her to return to L5. I hear our aunt and uncle are very mercenary. Perhaps we can handle them with cash. I plan to provide my help with their guidance, too. I've heard Satoko-chan isn't getting along with her aunt and uncle. I never thought that'd affect us in any way. But now, Irie has to deal with them. Maybe he's developed some kind of sense of responsibility or duty as her guardian. I don't really care. The more responsible he feels, the more progress our research makes. It'll be a plus for me. And by the way, I saw the report on H170. Oh, compared to your success, it's nothing. But I guess it's some kind of accomplishment. It's honestly ironic. The same research center that's produced the remedy to save her from derangement has developed a dangerous drug that could instantly induce it. Irie wasn't involved in the H170 research. That was my work. In fact, even if I asked him, he wouldn't have agreed to be involved. This dangerous reagent was developed during the process of uncovering the mechanisms behind how the pathogens controlling Satoko's brain could induce derangement or paranoia in their host. To put it bluntly, injecting H170 into a patient with Hinamizawa syndrome forced them to express terminal symptoms. It threw the brain into a simulated stage of agitation, essentially forcing the pathogen to grow unstable. Continue researching this. It will be possible to drive anyone with Hinamizawa syndrome violently insane at any time. Studying the mechanism behind that will help to solve the syndrome's mysteries. Welcome in, Foxglove. Welcome. So this study on H170 will be extremely important to future research. Thank you for that fluid check. Also, this medicine has military applications as the client requested. At this point, there's absolutely no use for it. Once our researchers progresses a bit further, this H170 could be spread at the right moment to cause a certain type of reaction. Compared to a killer virus, it seems like a useless pathogen, but there's no way detected in a dead body, and it makes it look as though the person just went insane spontaneously, so it must have some useful applications. The Marco Polo Bridge incident threatened to end research on Hinamizawa syndrome before. A historically important incident like that couldn't have been created by a killer virus, but it's possible with Hinamizawa syndrome. The elders of the Alphabet Project, the sponsor for our research, can think whatever they want about that. I don't care how they use what I've learned. My purpose is to solve the mysteries of Hinamizawa syndrome, to make people realize how important this research is. Also, to make people acknowledge my grandfather's accomplishments and achievements. Any military applications were just byproducts of the process that I didn't care about. The clients will appreciate your accomplishment. Maybe our budget will increase for next term. Hehe. Passion alone can't keep research going. We need money. We must thank the sponsor for giving us so much funding. For this much money to come from public expenses. Maybe Japan is richer than I thought. They're public expenses, but their expenses can't be made public. Hehe. Irie has no idea what I had to get through to get that money. Anyway, our research is going extremely well. We don't know what we'll find out about Hinamizawa syndrome, but I'm sure every mystery will eventually be resolved. I can hardly wait. The syndrome indicates that humans are simply empty containers, and that what we believe to be our will is simply the actions of parasites that live in our brains. That mystery was solved. It would have a greater impact than anything else in history. That is a truth which nobody wants to believe. This is an achievement my grandfather predicted back during his time. I know now. I know the reason why my grandfather was so fascinated by his work. Of course, Takano was the one that developed the... How can I make this killer... How can I make a dangerous pathogen that can be sometimes fairly benign go from 0 to 100 real quick? Oh gosh. In another life, Takano would just be an S-tier shit poster. Troll at shit poster, let's be honest. In a happier timeline. Okay, let's see. The lights came on in the meeting room as the slideshow ended, and all the auditors began to applaud, praising the Irie Institute's dramatic accomplishments. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. To be honest with you, I wasn't expecting too much from this Himizawa syndrome research. I figured that even if there was progress, it would be 3 steps forward and 2 steps back every decade. My, impressive it is to achieve so much in such a short period of time. It's all thanks to you, Director Irie. Oh no. This is all because of the staff that supported me and Takano-san too. Don't be so humble. Hehehe. Director Irie is a genius in the field of neurology. After all, he's also produced greater achievements than any other doctor when it comes to the brain. That's true. Not many doctors as young as you have nearly as much experience operating on brains. Congratulations, Lieutenant Colonel Irie. Now I can go back to Tokyo with my head held high. I'm honored we gave you something good to take back with you, Tomitake-san. By the way, could you please stop calling me Lieutenant Colonel? I just can't get used to it. I almost prefer Risa-san at this point. I bet you do, huh? Hehe. Sure were a huge help. You're the one who secured funding for our research even when we couldn't produce feasible results. We couldn't have done this without you. It wasn't any trouble. But really, the results you presented today are just brilliant. Not only have you found the cause of the syndrome, you've also provided a clear path towards future research. We're looking forward to hearing more progress when we come again next time. I'm sure the Tokyo office will quit bothering us about cutting your budget with these sorts of results. Hehe. After all, we nearly lost our budget for the canned coffee we provided to you all, didn't we? Oh, we need canned laughter. Hold on. There we go. Tomitake-kun, make sure you report our progress to Tokyo well enough that they give us enough funding to hold a party. We've been giving nothing but the stick. It's time for the carrot. We'll be happiest if that carrot comes back in the shape of funding. With that congenial atmosphere, our routine audit was over. Irie is surrounded and being questioned by National Institute of Infectious Disease workers who had joined the auditors. Thank you. Takano-san, congratulations. Funding carrot, yes. Takano-san, congratulations. I can't really say this out loud, but all the progress I've seen tonight is thanks to your hard work. Hehe. Thank you, Jiro-san. Jiro-san and I are the only ones who know that strings were pulled in order to create the Irie Institute. So only Jiro-san can understand what I had to go through. But I've only just risen to the stage for my research. My opponent are finally in the same arena, that's all. Critical fight comes after this. It should be getting even more exciting in the future. By the way, Manager Nakagawa told me to tell you that he wants you to hold a presentation in Tokyo. Even the Alphabet Board wants you to come meet with them. I guess they all want to hear this directly from you. Oh my, isn't having you explain enough? I don't think that's what they mean. I bet they want to meet such pretty researcher in person, maybe. My, aren't you being silly, Jiro-san? Hehehe. Excuse me, Major Takano. There's a phone call for you from Tokyo. Thank you for holding. This is Takano. This is Major Takano. Is this ground control? But hey, how are you doing? Koizumi-sensei. Thank you for taking time to call me. You know, I heard you made a significant breakthrough, Mio-chan. So I had to call to congratulate you. Thank you very much. Yes, thanks to your support, we've been able to accomplish the first step of identifying the microbe that causes Himizawa syndrome. This is ground control to Major Takano. You're kind of a psycho bitch. You could dial it. Need to dial it back. People are friends. Not experiment, not research subjects. Not lab rats. This is a human. Gonna show you the difference between... All I can think of is a meme. I'm gonna have to, like, make it or whatever, where it's like the pan picture. Corporate wants to find you. It's the difference between these two pictures. They have, like, Takano saying, there's the same picture. Person. Yeah. Have a picture of a child and one, and then a lab rat on the other. Oh gosh. Thank you very much for the lurk, Sophie. I see. Great job, Mio-chan. I'm sure Takano-san is very happy in heaven right now. That's a little too early. My grandfather was attempting to go beyond merely identifying the cause of the syndrome. His work was about showing the possibility of human thoughts actually being controlled by parasitic agents in our bodies. Only when that is proven will his research be recognized for the great achievement it is. Hehe. You're able to explain all thoughts and religions within parasites. The world is going to be tossed into chaos. Oh, interesting. Just imagine how those religious big shots will react once they find out their leaders are parasites. How interesting. Love to see that. I won't die until you show that to me, Mio-chan. Please don't say that. Do look forward to it, though. I'll make sure this research will spread shock throughout the world. The whole world will finally realize how great my grandfather was. They'll be fighting each other to read over the documents he left behind. Then can I say that I have repaid my debt to him? I'm a little envious of Takano-kun. I don't want money, you know. I don't mind getting rid of half of what I have. I just wish I had a grandchild who would carry on my legacy. Thank you so much. Those words mean so much to me. By the way, I sent you a present. It's a nice bottle of wine for you to celebrate with. I didn't know your address, so I sent it to the clinic. However, they told me they're having a difficult time importing it. So it may take a little while. When it comes, please have a party with the people who helped you. Celebratory wine? Well then, I wonder what expensive sort of drink Koizumi-sensei will be sending us. Oh, it's not that kind of expensive. Don't you remember, Mio-chan? Takano used to keep a particular bottle of wine. I remember. That's right, my grandfather kept a certain bottle of wine. I don't know if he bought it himself or if someone gave it to him. But he treasured it and always said he'd open it when his research finally gained recognition. I was a child then, so I don't even remember what brand it was. But Koizumi would know. He went through all the trouble to find the same bottle of wine for this special occasion. First time in a while, Takano felt the same sunny warmth she experienced during her time with her grandfather. Thank you very much, Uncle Koizumi. I like it when you call me that, Mio-chan. I don't feel like you're speaking to me when you say Koizumi-sensei. I can't help but smile along with him, because I think Tomitake and Irie were just having a similar exchange. If you like it that way, then I'll be happy to call you that when there's nobody around. Hehe. I'll be happier if you'd call me that even in front of people. Haha. I don't know exactly how old he is, but if he can laugh so energetically, he'll live for many more years to come. I guess the saying about living a long life, is true after all. Takano-kun and I both wished you were truly part of our family. We really did. My grandfather had his own family, of course. Because he was so into his research, he became estranged from his wife. They were legally married, but they lived separately. I never met his family when I was a child. I only met them after my grandfather committed suicide. During his latter years, my grandfather went into psychological despair, began to look at his life with cynicism. His condition became worse over time, but he was shocked at his own dementia. He was afraid of living while his consciousness degraded. So he jumped off the rooftop of the hospital. Only my name was in his suicide note. None of his family members' names were in it. That's when all his relatives showed up and took everything my grandfather left behind. They were afraid I was going to get his estate. They had lawyers and all that, so I backed down. I asked for everything in his study in return. Those idiots don't understand the value of my grandfather's research. They were actually happy to strike a deal out of court. Then they could also get rid of the piles of papers and jars with human organs in them. They never even showed up once when he was alive, yet like hyenas, they appeared after his death. I never let them get their hands all over my grandfather's research. Fortunately, I was able to protect my grandfather's soul from their tainted hands. Okay, I'll get going here. See anything you need. Be sure to call Uncle Koizumi, okay? I'll do anything for my granddaughter. Thank you, Uncle Koizumi. I'll work even harder. I'm also thinking of a beam now. So we could do the ancient aliens guy, but also of Takano, and then instead of aliens, it's parasites. Harris. Okay, let's see. Uh... Okay, which one? Which one? Satoko-chan's dissection plans have been scrubbed, and we're getting ready to administer an almost totally untested medicine. C103. This experimental medicine suppresses the production of a certain type of hormone. In doing so, it will stop the transmission of the syndrome triggering Satoko-chan's condition. The mechanism of Hidemizawa syndrome is as follows. The pathogen takes over the frontal lobe of the patient's brain. and then induces increased responsiveness to paranoia. As a result, a patient voluntarily carries out excessively defensive behaviors to a problematic extent. If this induction can be cut off, it'll be possible to save terminal patients from becoming deranged. But it only cuts off at induction, so it's not really a cure. Ironically, the brain is an organ that learns. Since the brain has learned to be excessively paranoid due to Minamizawa syndrome, even after the pathogen is eliminated, the brain doesn't simply unlearn that paranoia. In short, even if the pathogen doesn't induce derangement, the patient will be directed to such emotions of their own volition. Thus, it is possible to completely escape the nearly deranged L5 state. The proverb, "A burnt child dreads the fire," is a good example of this. Even after the burn on your tongue heals, the fear of being burned by food again remains. It ends up a good thing. We call it learning a lesson, and we call it trauma when it doesn't. We predict Satoko-chan's treatment will take a significantly long time, requiring both medication, such as administering psychotropics, and mental care like counseling. We have to slowly unravel her mind's solidified paranoia, while also suppressing the syndrome's induction of derangement. This is the treatment plan for terminal patients like Satoko-chan. However, as we are going to stimulate the parts of her brain that affect her emotions, while they are being stimulated by the pathogen at the same time, it's possible there could be unexpected side effects. Both her mental and physical strength hold the key to our success. We're going to begin the experiment once she regains her emotional stability and physical strength, but someone who threatens to disturb her emotional stability has been coming here every day. Oishi, the sly old detective from the Okinomiya Police Department. He thanks everyone for the damn protest to this dismemberment murder of the construction manager as an organized effort secretly conducted by the 3 families of the village. He even thinks the accident involving Satoko-chan's parents wasn't an accident. That's why he keeps coming back so we can talk to Satoko-chan. No matter how many times you come, I won't let you see her. She's still crippled by the shock of her parents' deaths. Can't you understand what she's been going through? I understand. I only need a few minutes with her, really. It won't take long at all. If you want me to get a warrant, I will. But that's pretty serious, you know. I'm being considerate of Haojo-san, and that's why I haven't gotten a warrant. What are you trying to ask her, anyway? I don't really understand. Well, actually, it's possible that the fall was not an accident. I know the Haojo couple were hated by the whole village after the business with the dam, but who would actually follow them on their trip and push them off? Don't you think that's absurd? Well, we could call it an accident. If that was the case, there's some things which just don't make sense. Why lie? Those lies, I don't think it was an accident. What lies? Well, Satoko said she was asleep in the car at the time of the accident. I think that story sounds a little off, doesn't it? Satoko claims she was asleep in the back seat when the accident took place. She didn't get out of the car at the viewing platform. She woke up, she didn't see her parents. Then she found out they had fallen off the cliff. Where is the lie exactly? You aren't saying Satoko-chan wasn't really asleep and she went over to the viewing platform with her parents, are you? That's right. Satoko was never asleep. She got out of her car with her parents and went to the viewing platform. I'm suddenly hit by a terrible possibility. What she says is true, and Satoko-chan is saying that she didn't go to the viewing platform, even though she actually did. It's terrible to even imagine. Why are you saying such a thing? Besides, why would Satoko lie? That's just it. Why would Satoko lie? That's what I need to talk to her about. Otherwise, this won't end as just a simple accident. Why are you convinced that Satoko is lying? This accident took place in a different jurisdiction. The guys from the Shirakawa station conducted the interviews with the parties involved. There are things that bother me in their report. Bother you? Like what? According to Satoko Haojo's statement, her parents asked her to come with them to the viewing platform, but she was sleepy, so she didn't get out of the car. Then she she fell asleep and woke up after a while. She became concerned because her parents hadn't come and she started to cry. The park workers on the patrol noticed her crying and talked to her, and that's how the accident was discovered. At that time, guess what? According to the park workers' testimony, she was the one who first said her parents had fallen off the cliff. You see, it's hard to see the accident site in question from where the car was parked. If you look very carefully, you might be able to notice the broken fence. But still, you know, I think it's odd to say your parents had fallen off a cliff, just because you didn't see them when you woke up. Normally, most people would say something like their parents went for a walk and didn't come back. It just doesn't make sense to me that she told a stranger that her parents had fallen off a cliff, without even being at the site of the accident. I want to ask her why she was so certain that her parents had fallen off a cliff. That's why I keep coming back here. I asked her many times before she was admitted here. But all she said was that she doesn't remember or that she just was confused at the time. Sounds like a politician, huh? Or a child, or a young child that, just went through something severely traumatic, that... I'll be honest, I do believe in this instant, because of other reasons as well, that, he's onto something. He's still absolutely terrible at his job. See, we have other info that would indicate that there's probably there's something off about it, but he doesn't really. Only slightly thing that honestly could be easily explained. Because, much like the ancient alien thing, one for him would be, instead of aliens for him, it would be Sodazakis. That terrifying possibility has turned to certainty in my head. Assumed that her parents' accident triggered her terminal symptoms. But no. Satoko had already gone terminal, and just before the accident, her heart was filled with paranoia that drove her mad. She was under a lot of stress because of her bad relationship with her stepfather. She was also being scolded by her mother for not being able to get along with him. That made her paranoid, made her think her parents considered her to be a bother, and were going to kill her. When they went to the viewing platform, she must have thought they were going to push her off the cliff. Then a tragedy took place and she pushed her parents off instead, although she considered it to have been self-defense. I'm certain of that, because I know Hinamizawa syndrome better than anybody. This accident isn't an accident. It isn't a crime either, like Oishi is thinking. It is simply a tragedy. When I talked to Satoshi about the family, I was even more convinced. Told me even though Satoko refused to open up to her stepfather, he had tried to communicate with her. It's true their relationship didn't go well in the beginning. Satoko caused trouble repeatedly, and even called the city's child abuse hotline. At that point, they received guidance from the Child Consultation Center. They pointed out that the problem lay in lack of communication between daughter and stepfather. So the stepfather took a parenting course under the social worker's guidance, and awkward though it was, he made efforts to communicate with her. Satoshi noticed his efforts, so he tried to talk to Satoko-chan about it. But Satoko didn't notice them at all. The excessive stress she was under triggered terminal symptoms, and she couldn't understand her stepfather's remorse. On the contrary, her stepfather's change created even more mistrust within her. As a result, they went to enjoy the beautiful view of the Shirakawa Nature Park as a family, sharing that joy, yet that humble, ordinary family's wish couldn't even get through to Satoko-chan. But a tragic misunderstanding. Satoko stayed in the car telling her parents that she wanted to sleep, but then she got out and snuck up behind them. I bet he heard her footsteps. He pretended not to notice her, thinking that she was doing that to surprise him. It's sad just thinking about what must have ran through his mind. Well, he thought that he had finally gotten through to her. She was actually approaching him with the intent to kill. But that's not Satoko-chan's true nature. It's the disease. Satoko isn't the only one who is to be pitied. Her parents are its victims too. and now Oishi thinks she's a criminal. Judgment and punishment are required for crimes with malicious intent. But what she really needs is understanding and sympathy. And no one has that understanding except for me, because I know about Hinamizawa syndrome. I'm the director of the Erie Institute, but I've never behaved as such or exercised that authority. But I'm going to do for the first time since taking that position. I'm not doing it as head of the Erie Institute, the secret research institute organization. I'm doing it as a doctor, so I can protect Satoko-chan. It's about the Houjo's family accident at the Shirakawa Nature Park. Do you think you can ask Okanogi-san from the Mountain Dogs to make it out to be an accident? Sure, of course, that's no problem. The Mountain Dogs are a unit specialized in concealment and manipulation, after all. We have to put an end to it quickly, otherwise the police will end up getting closer to finding about our research. That's right. Please make it especially sure Oishi-san is drawn away from this case. We're at a delicate stage of the drug administration test. He doesn't need any more unnecessary stress. You're absolutely right. Let the Mountain Dogs know. I've heard they even have connections within the police, so I'll give the order to put pressure on them too. Should the accident in Shirakawa be concluded as exactly that within a few days. With that, it was declared an accident. Only if it really was one, it would have eased Satoko-chan's soul. Getting rid of the pathogen can't heal that wounded soul, nor can it erase the tragedy that had already taken place. All I can do is my best, so the day she regains her smile comes sooner. Okay, what do it? Let's make sure to drop a save. Okay. And just as a reminder, so I'll do a minor rise a little bit later at the end of the stream as well, but so I will be out of town this weekend. So so I won't be tomorrow afternoon. I'll be leaving out of town to visit my older brother, because my initial plan to meet him on the 4th was didn't work out, unfortunately. So this is a attempt 2. So I will be coming back Monday afternoon. So I should be able to stream Monday evening in time for Yakuza Kiwami 2, but and I was thinking about trying, there's always, I guess there's a slight possibility I might decide to stream very shortly tomorrow afternoon, like Sunhaven, or continuing a bit with Lemon Cake, but very unlikely. It's possible, but very unlikely. So yeah, unfortunately that means we'll also be missing Higurashi get on Friday, but Monday, normal times and etc. Yup. Alright, let's get back at this. Rika has developed a high fever. A very high fever. It's not flu season, nor a season for any type of contagious disease. I could only think of the suspicious experiments Rika has gone through. The fever is being caused by those. Her growth is rather slow compared to other children her age. receiving mysterious shots and going through experiments every week. I'm sure her body is exhausted. I've asked the staff to go easy on her, but Rika herself is fearless and willing to go through anything. My husband, who should be admonishing her for that, if you believe their story that it's crucial to the lives of over 2,000 villagers, and takes her own daughter to that clinic every week. I'm the only one who's sincerely worried about her health. That's why I want to ask Dr. Irie to be a little more considerate towards Rika. Anyway, I have to talk to them about taking responsibility for this. Right after I called, a staff member came to pick Rika up to admit her to the clinic. As her guardian, I came with them. Please, calm down. I'll make sure she'll be okay, so please wait for a while. How can I calm down? When did she come down with such a high fever? Isn't this caused by the experiment you performed last week? Rika's just a little girl, you know. She cares about her friends, so she's doing what she can for the sick girl. I understand. There's no way our research would affect Rika-san negatively. Besides, being extremely careful so that something like that won't happen. Explain this high fever. Kids get sick. It's probably due to the change in seasons, and how could this be a simple cold? It's because of the weird shot you gave her. From everything we've known about her and awesomeness, Rika's mom definitely has major Karen energy. Dr. Iria only told me to calm down and refuse to accept responsibility. My husband told me this is all for the sake of the village. That's why I've held back my doubts until now. But I'm at my limit. Their existence has been suspicious from the beginning. Conducting their research in secret using a privacy policy as an excuse. That was shady enough on its own. It's just impossible. In fact, I called the Ministry of Health and was told that wasn't true at all. I told them I'm Rika Furude's mother. The clinic even came up with stupid excuses saying normal workers often don't know of a special institute like theirs. That doesn't make sense at all. It's much, much too suspicious. Also, there are people who don't appear to be researchers working at the institute. They look like security guards, but they seem so different from normal guards at a normal hospital. Well, if it was a secret research place, then it begs that they would have, like, special security guards. In fact, one time I accidentally saw that they were armed with guns. That is, well, are they policemen? I don't think so. Who are you all anyway? Please to believe you're from the Ministry of Health. Dr. Irie seems taken aback by my intensity. Can't even answer properly. They're still hiding a lot from us. That tells me the research they're doing on with Rika isn't anything proper. But I'm Rika's guardian. Rika's still a child. Doesn't matter what she says, I won't let her participate in this research anymore. My. It's Rika-chan's mother. Hello. Oh, what's the matter? Is everything okay? Well, Rika-chan's mother says she won't let Rika-chan participate in the research any longer. Why is that? Because she's not your guinea pig. We've never treated her that way. You're misunderstanding us. I'm a little startled. Dr. Irie is a weak person who backs down under pressure. Takano is different. I'm yelling at her, but she's not afraid at all. Contrary, she's glaring daggers, and she looks as if she's about to jump on me. Rika-chan's fever is caused by a cold. We didn't cause it. When it comes to safety and sanitation, we pay the same level of attention as a national research center. I don't mean to be rude. Considering you walk around while holding Rika-chan's hands without disinfecting yours with alcohol first. We are far more sanitary. We're not talking about that. Rika's at your toy. She'll never come back here again. You can't decide that by yourself. You and your husband both signed the statement of consent, didn't you? We have been depositing money that's by no means a small amount into your account every single month for cooperation in the research. What? I know nothing about any money. Never even heard of that before. Guess receiving money from participating in their research really is news to me. Knowing my husband's character, he wouldn't have used it as spending money behind my back. I bet he thought of it as a free service for the villagers. Completely forgot about the money being deposited into our account. There haven't been any strange deposits in the regular account, so it may be in our savings. Anyway, I don't care about that. If you want to breach our contract, we'll have to ask you to return the full amount of deposits we have made up until this point. Also, if one party is at fault for the breach of contract... Takano-san, please calm down. Mrs. Furude, you too. As I explained to you before, we must find a cure for Hinamizawa syndrome, so the villagers can continue to live without worries. For that reason, we need to have Rika's-san continue to participate. Then tell me, when are you going to find a cure? Does it make sense? First you said this was for Rika's friend, but Satoko, as released from the clinic, is now carrying on happily. Told my husband 2 weeks ago that you found a cure already, didn't you? Yes. I think I told him something like that. But you see, to solve the mysteries of the syndrome... You didn't mention anything about solving mysteries at the beginning. It was to participate to find a cure for the villagers. So now our job is done. All the research and experiments you performed on Rika have nothing to do with the cure. You're doing them out of your own self-interest, aren't I? Right? It's not true, it really isn't. Right. This matter of Rika's cold is just a misunderstanding. If you still don't trust us, then... That's enough. Since money is involved here, I'll discuss it with my husband. Excuse me. They were just too shady from the very start. It's their exaggerated story. Rika and my husband took their side, but it won't work on me. I must settle things with them right away, because Rika isn't their toy. I especially don't trust that woman called Takano. Dr. Ire seems to me like he's still a doctor, but she doesn't. How can I describe her? So I can say the glow in her eyes is just unpleasant. She only sees Rika as a guinea pig. I can feel cruelty emitting from her. Neither my husband nor Rika have noticed that. I must protect her. As a mother, I must protect Rika. That's not like you, Takano-san. Getting into an argument with her will only make things more complicated. Someone like you. I know. Sorry for losing my cool. Did something happen to put her in a bad mood, Ire wondered. The heated conversation she just had didn't involve the Takano he knew. This one? Nope. The situation has changed. Rika's father suddenly changed his mind about having her help out with the research. When Rika tanked down with a high fever the other day, her mother, who wasn't happy about her daughter helping in the first place, finally blew up. I was hoping the father would convince her somehow, but now he seems to be on her side. Rika's father didn't get emotional like her mother, but he demanded that we make our research plans for Rika clear. That we finish our research within 3 months at most, which was completely unrealistic. Research can't have a deadline, that's out of the question. We cultivate research by grinding down our knowledge, skills, and time. To take time away from us is like taking away what's vital to live. How could he say such a thing? Curses, 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 curses. Rika's parents are only saying that because they don't know anything about scientific research. However, as they are the parents of the Queen of Karen, we are completely lost about what to do. Well, it sounds like you could still talk to the father, like, if you'd be a bit more transparent about some things. And, you know, maybe get someone that's good at speaking layperson or whatever. Get Jiro. Listen, he talks to people about getting, if he can get budget if he can get budget money and funding from random bureaucrats, he can probably help ensure funding continuing. He can probably get please convince the dad. But that would be a common human solution, which Takano was not the best at. So, yeah. Her existence is the focal point of our work. To lose her would be like losing your sense of direction out in open water. Rika's providing her cooperation with our research, but the withdrawal of her guardian's consent could be a setback. Situation is extremely dire. His parents are only interested in finding a cure, but to me the cure is only a small part of solving the mystery. I can't let her go. Are our differences causing this predicament? And it's not only them. The same is happening between Irie and me. He thinks it's inevitable that we need to stop the research if Rika's parents refuse to consent. That's understandable. In the beginning, Irie never had the determination to solve the mysteries of Hinamizawa syndrome. He won't back down to the research assertively, but he will passively by agreeing with Rika's parents. Is that the attitude of a researcher who's trying to unravel mysteries? He's the type of man who would step on my grandfather's research with his dirty feet. He's nothing but a coward who was in this half-heartedly. He started to feel guilty over his past the moment he saw blood. He isn't qualified to even be involved in researching Hinamizawa syndrome. He's simply an outsider who joined in because of the client's demands. If I were a man, he wouldn't be here in the first place. So he produced wonderful results with his development of a cure. He seemed to think it's all right to close up shop with that. Is he planning to waste everything by being satisfied with just that tiny result? That man doesn't have any right to discard my grandfather's research. I can feel my guts boiling. No, Irie isn't the main person at fault. The one to blame here is that woman, Rika's mother. If she wasn't so selfish, this wouldn't have happened. Maybe it's partly my fault. I entrust the relationships and obligations all this time. But somehow, Rika's mother and I didn't get along, so I didn't try to socialize with her. Thought I was fine because I got along with Rika and her father. But now the mother has influenced the father and changed his decision. What negligence. What a reversal. What a blunder. Irie is saying we should talk to the office in Tokyo about what to do next. But I know once the Tokyo office finds out about this, they'll order us to shut the research down. Worked so hard to even get things started. If they hear anything negative, they'll put a stop to it. Come too far to complete my grandfather's research. I can't let it be stopped. I still have a little time to think about this. I need to calm down and analyze this carefully. Always come up with a great plan when I drink my favorite tea and bite my nails like this. I looked up at the ceiling and closed my eyes, as tenderly as possible. There were times when I couldn't find a solution, but someone else came up with a simple one. I've been able to overcome everything that's been thrown at me. I've endured the hell at that orphanage, so I'll never let that woman get in the way. Settle your thoughts down. Think about this clearly. Be calm, Mio Takano. Someone else may come up with a better idea, but who? It's not me, it can't be Irie. Of course, nobody from the village will do. Do I talk to someone in Tokyo? No, I can't. I don't want to owe anyone a favor. Even Koizumi-sensei would be disgusted if he finds out I can't solve such a simple matter by myself. Ah, I know. There's someone I can talk to nearby. They're supposed to be my subordinates after all, so it's worth a try. I called the leader of the mountain dogs, Okanoki. The mountain dogs are my subordinates, but they're part of the self-defense force and I'm just a researcher. So we never really had a chance to interact. He did what he was supposed to do and I did what I was supposed to do. So I never even thought of discussing anything with him. But the mountain dogs are there to protect and support our research. Why didn't I think of talking to him before? What a difficult situation. He used to speak standard Japanese, but now he has the Hinmizawa accent. I guess fitting in the region is the first thing they need to do. We may lose the Queen Kara, not only that, but her mother might end up exposing our secrets. Can you do something about it? I asked Okanogi rather directly, not really expecting an answer, but understood. Mountain dogs will take care of it. And just give us a little time and we'll do a clean job. Take care of it. Make sure the police won't get involved. We need a little time to prep, but it won't be difficult. I'm startled. Rika's mother is my enemy, but I was thinking about how I could convince her. The leader of the Mountain Dogs, the counterintelligence unit, whose duty is protect this secret research, came up with a much simpler plan. Do you mean kill her? To preserve the secret, I was told to do whatever was necessary. Of course, we won't do anything until we get an order. Right. This is a very simple problem to him. Rika's mother has started to interfere with our research. Not only that, there's the chance she might talk to people about the Institute, so they'll eliminate her. Sounds like a good idea. Can you do a good job of it? That's why we're here. This will be our biggest job since the kidnapping of the minister's grandson. I remember now. The Mountain Dogs are the one who kidnapped the grandson of the Minister of Construction, and used that to blackmail him. It's been a few years, so I completely forgot about that. They did such a marvelous job then. That's right. I have the Mountain Dogs on my side. Can you get on with it right away? You could easily kill her, even tonight, but that'd create too much of a fuss. We'll make it look like she disappeared, so give us a little time to make some arrangements. Just like a cat's eyes under a bright light, I can feel something in the back of my eyes opening up. Up until now, I'd been racking my brain trying to figure out how to make her my ally, or at least make her surrender or pacify her. Yet one order to this man and the problem's easily solved. I feel like a bird taking its first flight. Moise can get rid of that annoying mother. All I have to do now is to give an order. I feel grateful to Koizumi-sensei for giving me such terrific subordinates. What a wonderful power he has given me. I was taught that all people are equal, but if I have the power to control people's lives, then that means I'm more important than they are. What a feeling it is to be above others. So did you just want Rika Furude's mother to disappear? Eh? Well, wait a minute. Does he mean only for Rika Furude's mother? I can feel chills all over my body. If possible, I should have her father disappear too. Rika is willing to help. She has no other relatives in the Furude family. If both parents die, she has to depend on someone. The Erie Institute can support her. We can give her status, money, and protection. We can give her everything. By doing so, maybe it's possible to make her one of us, rather than just having her as a helper. All my worries are melting away. Everything I was just concerned about seems like a joke now. Had such powerful subordinates all this time, yet I never realized. All my tension is being released. I'm starting to feel relaxed. I can feel myself regaining my cool head. I'm going to get rid of them. Rika's parents, that is. The Queen Kara is my guinea pig. A guinea pig doesn't need parents. And that's right. It's almost time for the Wachanagashi festival. If they die on that day, people will call it the curse of the Oyashiro-sama. The murder case from 2 years and the accident from last year are two separate incidents. Yet because they happened on the day of Wachanagashi, they're being called the curse of Oyashiro. Then if her parents' deaths occur on this year's Wachanagashi, it'll be Oyashiro's curse 3 years in a row. The miracle of Oyashiro, also the curse. I'm going to create them. This is a chance for me to ascend to godhood and toy with human fate. The incidents that occurred 2 years in a row are said to be a curse. Not everyone believes that. However, if it happens 3 years in a row, then everyone has to believe. Because that'll be a true curse that's created by me. I'll become Oyashiro. My desire for revenge against God is coming together. Making her merely disappear isn't that fun, is it? Started to laugh. Konogi grinned to show his interest. We're going to create the curse of Oyashiro. I can't just let her die. She'll be demoned away and I'm going to enjoy dissecting her alive. Of course, I won't just have fun. This will be extremely useful for our research. After all, she's the previous Queen Carrier. Okay, this one? Deep down, I was prepared for something to happen tonight once again. The first year, the workers were stirred into a frenzy, killing and dismembering the old man. In the second year, the Ajo couple were killed through a fake accident. It's the damn protests. Only people who have been hated by the villagers die on the day of Watanagashi. Some people in the village were calling the incidents the curse of Oyashiro. Now that the damn protests are over, there would be no meaning in the villagers' enemies being killed on the night of the festival, I wondered. That was true. There were still some enemies left over. Thought perhaps that would happen again on the night of the festival 3 years in a row. My hunch was right. First, however, it looked so natural that I didn't think anything of it. The festival was nearing its end, and the village officials were gathered under the main tent. They opened their beers and enjoyed the leftover corn and braised cow tripe from the refreshment stands. I was in the main tent too, being entertained by the villagers, so I was actually there at the scene of the 3rd year's incident when it happened. Yet I didn't notice anything at the beginning. Hey, Rude-san, what's the matter? You feeling sick? Most of the older folks in the village were heavy drinkers, but a few were lightweights too. The priest was one of the latter. The priest was a representative as well as a host during the Watanagashi festival. So every time visitors and guests arrived, he greeted them, and each time he was offered a drink. So by the night's end, he was pretty worn out. That's why I didn't think of anything of it to see the priest sitting by himself in a folding chair. The mayor, Kimiyoshi, was the one to tap his shoulder and ask him if he was alright. Are you okay? You drank too much, didn't you? Does your chest hurt? Sorry, I think I'm a little tired. Didn't you have heart trouble before? Being sudden pains isn't a good sign. Dr. Irie! Dr. Irie! What's wrong? Is it your chest? That's not good. Saw what was going on. I noticed he was covered in terrible sweat. He was definitely not relaxing in his chair and enjoying the cool evening breeze. His face had a sickly pallor, and I thought he should lie down immediately. I should probably take you to the clinic. Are you okay? Can you hold on to my shoulder? Somebody help. Priest doesn't feel well. What's wrong with my husband? Dear, are you alright? Takano-san. Perfect timing. The priest doesn't feel well, so I'm going to take him to the clinic. Could you please have the car come around here? Sure, no problem. Hee. So the priest and his wife headed to the clinic with Dr. Irie. I don't know about young people, but the elderly know their own bodies well. They almost never push themselves to the point where they start feeling ill. Especially someone like the priest. It was hard to imagine him drinking himself sick. The cumulative experience of my years was telling me something. I headed to the Irie clinic just in case. I tried to follow their car, because the festival was almost over and all the stands were closing up. There was a lot of traffic going in and out, making it almost impossible for me to leave the temporary parking lot. More than 20 minutes had passed since the priest was carried in by the time I arrived at the clinic. 20 minutes. If it hadn't taken me 20 minutes, my involvement in this year's incident would have been quite different. I regretted not leaving on foot the moment I realized how hard it was to get my car out. All I get to do now is jot down the facts. Because between the time the priest left the festival and the time I arrived at the clinic, during those 20 minutes, this year's curse had taken place. The priest's condition changed for the worse right after he arrived at the clinic. He died. The autopsy results say it was heart failure. How can I accept that? I don't think the priest was having health problems, and everyone was taken by surprise by this sudden event. Moreover, the wife of the priest disappeared too. According to the clinic staff, she was with him right after he died, but she's nowhere to be seen now. Of course, she's not at home either. Maybe someone poisoned the priest. During the dam conflict, the priest was frowned upon for his remarks. He said there was no need to make a big fuss because the dam project would be cancelled anyway. The older villagers liked old grudges and hadn't forgotten that, so even I heard the word of them talking about how the priest wasn't fit for the shrine to Oyashiro. Called for backup and had them go search for the missing wife. Last year's falling couple incident as precedent. It's easy to believe both wife and husband could become victims. The village's youth group got organized and searched from the village to the mountains, and as a result, we found a set of sandals and a will by the edge of the Onagafuchi swamp. Will said something about her husband's death was the curse of Oyashiro, and she was throwing herself in the swamp to calm the god's anger. In other words, she committed suicide by jumping into the swamp. Legend says that the swamp is bottomless. It's connected directly to hell. Once you sink, you'll never come back. Divers from the police department searched the swamp, but her body was nowhere to be found. The past two mysterious incidents were solved individually, just as the higher-ups say, but something is odd about this year's mysterious death. The ill priest was carried to the clinic. His wife accompanied him. Within 20 minutes, the priest died of heart failure, and the wife either committed suicide or disappeared. The death of the priest may really have been a fatal heart attack, but for his wife to assume that it was the curse, to commit suicide by jumping into the swamp, for all that to happen in 20 minutes doesn't seem natural. Rudy's family has no relatives. Even if she was a true believer in Oyashiro, how could she commit suicide while leaving behind her one and only daughter? Irie is hiding something too, but he's just a village doctor, which means he's nothing more than their pawn. This is all a conspiracy to assassinate the priest, and there's someone who's pulling the strings. I've been starting to think that trying to tie the past two incidents to the village so forcefully was a bit overbearing of me, but this incident was enough to convince me that this series of cases involving mysterious deaths in Himeizan were all grounded in one intention. This incident had countless numbers of discrepancies. Someone from the village seems to be putting pressure on high command. Just like the past incidents, this one will be treated as an individual case and end up being forgotten. Since it happened 3 years in a row, everyone in the village will say it's the curse of Oyashiro. I think that's the culprit's goal. With the war, belief in Oyashiro became antiquated. Someone committing these murders as a ritual to restore that god's dignity? The one pulling the strings must be the Sunizaki family. Can we appreciate how quickly he jumps from this? It's like, okay, yeah, you're on a good track. Yep. Okay. Doctor, okay, yeah, last clinic. So, logic would say, investigate the clinic and focus your attention there. But, oh gosh. Someone test him for the Hinamizawa syndrome. Either that or he's just kind of like, I do not like Oishi at all, really. I'm gonna be perfectly honest. He's had a few interesting moments, but just in general, not really. Yeah. He seems to be good at causing more problems than he helps with. Just generally. On his scoreboard. Seriously, if we went back and, like... I mean, I'm sure he's gonna do something useful like... bit, but yeah. He's got way too much conspiracy theory-like vibes that just... So he starts, you know, the see patterns everywhere thing, even when there's not any. But he'll miss, like, the, you know, which is the more, like, paper thing, because it's like, he'll see it up to a point, and then, like, he just goes on, like, in crazy area. You know, misses kind of, like... Someone please introduce him to Occam's razor, please. A few months passed. Mario Sonozaki said something like it was natural for the police to be cursed by Oishiro, so the priest's case was lumped together with the mysterious Inamizawa deaths, otherwise known as Oishiro's curse. First, I simply wanted to avenge the old man. Now that case has grown into an abnormal one centered on the village's faith. Damn it, the old man's killer is human. I won't let it be pushed off onto some nonsense curse. Okay, let's see. School is the children's world. The values of grown-ups don't apply. Children decide their own values and create their own world. So the rules of the grown-up world of the village don't mean anything here. Even when the villagers badmouth the Haojo family and try to isolate them, that has no meaning at our school. In the children's world, children decide the rules. Rules they think are irrational don't exist here. And that's why, as a representative for the children here, I vow that I will never let any irrational rules come into our world. Within the school, no harassment is allowed toward the Haojo siblings. In the very beginning, some boys teased Satoko, but they were punished severely, and it hasn't happened ever since. That's the least I can do to resist the madness of the village. So I hope Satoshi and Satoko both feel that the school is a safe place for them. Satoshi must notice my concern, because he often smiles when he's here. However, I never see Satoko smile. Satoko's classmates used to try to cheer her up. Soon after, they decided that it was best to just leave her alone. I used to try to talk to her, but when I realized something, I stopped doing that. I'm a member of the Sonozaki family. Oh wait, this is Mion, must be. Okay, I need to do the voice. To Satoko, I'm one of her enemies, so I'm sure she feels uncomfortable to have me around her. All I can do is to watch over her. That's why Satoko was alone in the classroom. That said, Riki-chan is always hanging around with her, even though Satoko told her she was annoying. Satoshi too is always beside her. And those two are the only ones who remain by her side. It isn't limited to Satoko, of course. The malicious isolation is still continuing towards the Haojo family. Because their hysterical aunt is so hostile towards her neighbors, there's nobody who sympathizes with her. It's wise to know there are fights worth picking and also fights better set aside. If the aunt had even a little tolerance or self-control, this isolation wouldn't have continued. Of course, the villagers were the one who forced them into that role, even though they weren't related to the issue. But if she had stayed quiet, then it wouldn't have gone so far. The aunt's hostility is one thing, but she's dragging everyone into the family into it as well. The uncle and the aunt have been getting along and he hardly comes home. Both Satoshi and Satoko are forced to live in shame. The aunt vents her stress by harassing Satoko. This was the same too. The aunt is her guardian after all, but Satoko doesn't even try to hide her disgust, so things aren't going smoothly between them. She had behaved like Satoshi, then she wouldn't have been made into a target. Does that mean the sad life Satoko's living right now is something she caused herself? No, it doesn't. No matter how much I sympathize and how much I want to help her, nobody knows what to do. An apology won't change the situation. The flow can't be reversed. The fact that the Haujo family is ostracized by the entire village can't be changed. That's the horribleness lurking underneath our lives. The neighbors, the village, and the community. Once they become your enemies, the world can become so cruel. Japanese people have known that since ancient times, which is why we cultivated empathy and an obligation to show courtesy to one's neighbors. No matter who I blame, Satoko won't smile. So the only thing I can do is watch over her and make sure that she's safe when she's at school. Thank you, Mion. Eh? Heh, sorry, what? I just want to thank you for being so concerned about Satoko. Satoshi kind of appears absent-minded, but sometimes he says things as if he can read your thoughts. I try to deny it since it's out of character for me, but he smiled as if he could tell exactly what I was thinking. Satoko's just forgotten how to smile. She's at school. She can let go of the tension for a while. Sure, she treasures that time. Heh, that's basically the only thing this old man can do for her. It's not true. I really appreciate it. Stop that. You don't need to say that. Besides, my family is the one who's causing all this grief. I don't think that way. I really don't. I'm not good at reading people's subtle cues, but I know for sure what he just said is a lie. Satoshi knows that he and his family are being isolated because of the Sonozakis, and he's of course aware that I'm a member of the Sonozaki family too. Satoshi is mature, and that's the only reason he doesn't take it out on me. If he had the same temper as his aunt, he would hate me bitterly. Knowing that, the least I can do is not get close to him. But I'm a meddlesome person. When I see Satoko looking depressed or Satoshi forcing himself to smile, I have to do something. That might be even more troublesome to Satoshi and Satoko, though. Maybe I just don't understand Satoko's feelings. Why? My family is causing Satoko grief. So for me, a member of that family to hang around her, is that the right thing to do? Sure. That's you being you. What do you mean by that? You saying I'm insensitive? I don't mean that. This atmosphere itself is robbing Satoko of her smile, and only someone who can completely ignore it can bring her smile back. This old man can't tell if you're trying to compliment him or not. You're mean. I'm not ridiculing you, really. I just want you to help. Eh? I can't make Satoko smile again by myself. I need someone like you to help me. But, I'm Mion Sonozaki, you know? If I do something insensitive, I might end up hurting Satoko even more. Satoko is already lonely. You going to leave her alone too? This is the first time Satoshi has asked me for something so aggressively. Satoko is an important person to him. He's saying he needs my help to make her smile again. But still, no. Maybe he's right. What's going on between the Sonozaki family and the Haujo family is an issue among grown-ups. We children don't need to care about that. The irrational rules of the grown-ups don't mean anything in our world. So I have to object to the irrationality of the grown-up world using methods of my own. Are you sure Satoko won't feel bothered by me? She may at first, but I'll be with you. I'll be with you, Mion. So she'll open up right away. You think so? Should we do something after school today? If we go home first, our aunt might say something, and we might not be able to leave. Okay, then it's simple. Don't go home first. But if we go home too late, she'll ask us what we were doing. Let's see, I know. Why don't you join a club? A club? Yeah. Tell her you're going to an after-school club. Tell her that you're doing something after school before going home. There are plenty of people who go out after school before they go home. That'll be no problem. But if we mess up our clothes, our aunt will say, okay, then we'll do something indoors. And our clothes will stay clean. Indoors? Do you mean in the classroom? But wouldn't Chie-sensei say something? It's possible to play passionately while not going wild indoors. Contrary to my appearance, I love playing games. I've collected some treasures from overseas, too. Some of the manuals are written in English and are a little complicated, while some of them I need someone to play with, so a lot of them are just sitting in the storage room. Do you think Satoko can play those too? Sure. If you don't know the rules, then you can just make them up. As long as everyone is following the same rules, it's totally okay. I said it so confidently, but would bringing games from home and asking Satoko to play with us actually make her smile again? What if I got to lose? Maybe I'll bring one of the board games tomorrow. Also, Mion, I have something else I want to ask you. What? This old man is all ears. I'm looking for a part-time job. So if I could get her a nice birthday present, that might make her feel better. My gosh, how many of those do we have left? Oh gosh. Let's see. Okay, I think this is Yuro. Kano always comes along with me whenever I go to take pictures on a stroll. She might have discovered that you'll have cameras, and I'm happy to get a friend who shares the same hobby. However, there's actually something else she's much more interested in, and that would be the history of Hinamizawa. She frequently visits libraries and local archives to read through various documents and books. When it comes to Hinamizawa, she's gained quite extensive knowledge of the local history. She's in a good mood. She tells me about things like how Hinamizawa used to be called Onagafuchi Village, and how the villagers there used to perform various cruel ceremonies based around the worship of Oyashiro. Seems she loved tales of violence, and that actually gave her a mysterious charm. On the other hand, I don't do well with grotesque things, so I can hardly say anything in response. The stories of cruel ceremonies that she gets excited about, I don't really get them at all that well. However, with the way her eyes light up when she talks, I don't mind spending time with her, even if I have to hear about cruel things. You sure like looking into that stuff, don't you? Sure, it's fun. It's thrilling to unravel a dark past that has been sealed away. Don't you think so? Takano smiled in a way that almost made it sound like a dark past is something fun. But of course it isn't. The dark history of Hinamizawa that she loves is something cruel and atrocious, like the witch hunts in the Middle Ages. Besides, they helped me in researching Hinamizawa syndrome. You don't have to always look through microscopes to research things. Sometimes the traditions of this village that have spent so long with the parasite can teach us things that are far more valuable. That's true. Boy, you sure are passionate about this. Hehe. It's because research gives my life meaning. Step into the unknown and to uncover a secret that nobody else knows. Don't you think that's wonderful? It tickles my intellectual curiosity. It's probably the greatest entertainment valuable to humans who can feel joy just from thinking. The first person to work on this, Dr. Takano, must have discovered something fascinating enough to make him devote his entire life to the researching of the syndrome too. I think I'm probably the only one who could understand his feelings. I suppose it would be too difficult for you, Shiro-san, since you're not a researcher. Hehehe. She always seems so enthusiastic every time she talks about the late Dr. Takano. An independent researcher was the first person to discover the existence of the syndrome. There has to be something more there than just her admiration as a researcher. Come to think of it, Dr. Takano's full name was Hifumi Takano. Takano's full name is Mio Takano. Not only are their last names pronounced the same, but their first names follow a similar pattern. They must be connected somehow. I don't know anything about Takano's personal history, but there's a good chance that her name is an alias. So it's very possible she chose a name to reflect the researcher she admires. I see. So is that why you chose that name? What? Well, the name of the researcher you look up to is Hifumi Takano, right? And your name is Mio. Japanese, it's like you're counting upwards. Continuing the research he wasn't able to complete, so I thought maybe that's why you had that name. Who told you that? Huh? No, I just thought of that now. I didn't hear it from anybody. Hehe, you're correct. Surprised you figured out since you're so dense. I know you admire Dr. Takano. Sometimes you've spoken of him as you were his daughter or granddaughter who inherited his research legitimately. And that's why I said that. Even authors like Ranpo Edogawa use their pen names as homages towards authors they admired as well. So I thought maybe the name you like is like your pen name, you know? No, that's not so. Mio Takano is my real name. You write my family name differently, though. Eh? Then it really is the exact same family name as Dr. Takano? That's even more of a surprise. And Mio is your real name, too. And Mio Takano continuing Hifumi Takano's life work. A fateful coincidence. Hehe. You're overstating it, Jiro-san. This isn't fate of any kind. He's my grandfather. What? This is news to me. I heard Takano-san discovered documents about the Hinamizawa syndrome left by Dr. Takano after his death and decided to continue his research. I never heard of them being related before. Someone told me I'd leave a bad impression if I asked for money to continue my grandfather's research, that people may think I'm trying to pull funds for a family matter. That's why I changed one of the characters in my last name. So other than Uncle Koizumi, you're the first person I've told this to. I see. I didn't know. So that's why you're so passionate about all this. Okay, it's like, so the kanji is different. Pronounced the same, but... okay. It's like in Japanese you can have... And kanji... that is some of the characters... They can be pronounced the same, but they'll mean different things. So it's like why occasionally on like some anime or whatever, if like you're watching, they'll like... You'll get the moment, it's written like da-da-da or something like that. I understand very clearly now. So you really did inherit the work your grandfather was unable to complete. My grandfather researched Hinamizawa syndrome not only from a medical point of view, but through old documents and literature as well. And through the old stories of a village that has been living with a syndrome for hundreds of years, far more valuable than looking through microscopes that magnify things hundreds of times. My grandfather taught me that. I see. Your grandfather is happy that you're finishing the work he couldn't. I bet he's really proud of you. Hehehe. I hope so. I said something Takano would normally tease me about, but she didn't. She nodded and smiled. There's no mistake. She is indeed the granddaughter of Dr. Takano. My grandfather is Hifumi, which means 1, 2, 3. And I'm Mio, which means 3, 4. Following after my grandfather, we have only counted the 3 together. And counted the 4 after my grandfather. Must reach the 5 that neither me nor my grandfather has seen yet. And that is my duty, and the reason I was born. So that's why your name is Mio, huh? I think that's a beautiful name. Thank you. Please keep the granddaughter issue to yourself. My clients don't even know, and I don't want any unnecessary problems from them finding out about it. Huh, sure. Okay. This is a secret between you and me, huh? Though it's only a small secret, it feels good to think I'm the only one who knows about it. I've only counted to 3. I haven't even reached 4 yet. Rough over me is long and rough, but I'll do it. Expose the secrets of Hinamizawa syndrome. I'll support you. It's my job in the first place, isn't it? Jeez. You'd sound pretty cool if you didn't tack on things like that. Only need to say that you'll support me, you know. Haha. Okay, I'll support you. It's too late. You're not cool if you can't get it right the first time. Hehehe. We laughed cheerfully together. Takano laughed several times. More dead kittens. Sorry. See, this is a dark game. My brain goes to dark jokes. Not that I... Anyway, there. We finished laughing. She became serious again. Spoke as if to drive the point home. So remember, Shiro-san, don't tell anybody that I'm his granddaughter, okay? Okay. I promise. It's not a bad thing, but I don't want the clients to cut our funding because of that. I don't think they will. Besides, I won't tell a soul. Are you sure? Are you really, really sure? This research is the entire purpose of my life. My mission is to complete my grandfather's work. Prove that his trampled research is actually something amazing that will shock the world and to make everyone praise my grandfather, who is perishing away under the earth, eventually having him ascend as a god. It's the meaning and purpose of my life. Zero-san, if you say something creates problems for my research. Don't worry, I'll forget everything you told me here. Really, I mean it. I won't say anything. I promise. I won't say anything. Are you sure, Shiro-san? I sensed something frightening within her for a moment. Afraid that she would end up possessed by it, I swore to keep the promise. Her intellectual curiosity as a researcher and her conviction to complete her grandfather's work are what stirs her passion for researching Hinamizawa syndrome. I think there's one more reason, but it's far too deep. And that's one lone wound in her heart that someone like me should never touch. But earlier, she said, if you create problems for my research, I wonder what she wanted to say after that. I can't help think she wanted to say something terrifyingly merciless. I kept my promise with her, and we never talked about the issue again after that. It happened so suddenly. Uncle Koizumi passed away. I never heard he was ill or wasn't feeling well. His chest started to hurt suddenly and he couldn't sleep. He called an ambulance for the first time in his life because he didn't think he could endure the pain. He was taken into emergency care, but he didn't live to see the morning. It was an acute myocardial infarction. Maybe it was the best possible way to go. Instead of being in bed for many years slowly dilapidating and withering away, he was healthy until his death, so I think he must have lived a wonderful life. But still, it was too sudden. I wish I had called him Uncle more. It's too late, though. Uncle Koizumi would never smile at me again with his wrinkly old face, no matter how many times I called for him. He was my guardian until now. He always looked after me, making sure my efforts received proper recognition. Maybe he only did that because he couldn't help my grandfather when he's alive. Welcome in, Pyro. Welcome, welcome, welcome. But still, he was an important person to me. He wasn't just my political backing. But I didn't realize that when he was alive. I only thought of using his power for my own agenda. But after he died, I realized Uncle Koizumi was my grandpa too. He provided the warmth and protection that I longed for from my own grandfather. At his funeral, I shed tears that I thought that I forgot how to. Uncle, thank you for everything. Should have called you Uncle more, huh? Times I called to him, he would never reply. What I can do for him at this point is complete my research. I must accomplish my goal for his sake. When my grandfather's research is finally acknowledged, Uncle Koizumi's name will be known once again for being the sole supporter of his endeavor. I believe that's the best way to repay him for everything he's done. I've vowed to devote myself to my work even more from this day on. But, unfortunately, hardships and sadness tend to come together. It was like the tailwind that blew steadily until today suddenly became a headwind. The wind shifted far too suddenly. So strong, so cold, so sad. What are you talking about, Jiro-san? Well, you know that Koizumi-sensei was the main political sponsor for the Irie Institute, right? He had trouble getting approval for the related agencies, but Koizumi-sensei used his political weight to force it through. After all, he was one of the key figures in the post-war restoration, accomplishing tremendous deeds in the medical industry. He held a huge influence in politics and industry. So now that Koizumi-sensei is gone, the way he did things won't work any longer. So far, it's only a rumor, so I don't know for sure. But I heard they're going to reconsider the budget allocated for the project. You're saying the Irie Institute will be closed down? No, I haven't heard anything about them reconsidering the institute. But since Koizumi's death, the rumors say that there's a great deal of confusion among the old guard. And there are factions as well as civil strife within the party around finding a successor. Seems the opposing factions are getting influence in the human resources of our client. So they may begin to dig deep into the holy treasure chest that the Koizumi faction held to fund their project. Of course, this is all too complicated for me to explain that well. Besides, these might just be rumors. Zero kept saying there were rumors, but that told me the wind's direction has changed. Or maybe Zero already knows everything and he's simply trying to warn me about it. And then at our next routine audit, Zero made it clear with his own mouth. High-ranking government officials, who had never came here before, attended the routine audit along with Zero-san. Just by seeing those faces, I can tell the turning point is approaching. Poor Takano. She can't just perform vivisections on people. She's so sad. What do you mean I can't perform What do you mean I can't perform vivisections on people? I can't conduct research if I can't do that. So you know, the Alphabet Project was created to strengthen post-war Japan's presence in the world within the view of developing deterrent weaponry. However, the 21st century is now just around the corner. In this day and age, we must put the past behind us and start looking forward to a new world. He meant exactly what he said. Japan has already put the past behind. It's cutting off the ties to the ghosts that wish to resurrect the militaristic might of the pre-war era. It's been 40 years since the end of the war, and we've contributed to the world in various peaceful ways. We have a strong alliance with the United States, and our nation has established its position in world affairs well enough. We've kept our promise to forever renounce war and nuclear weapons. We are known as a nation of peace. In this coming century, our presence and influence will grow even larger. The Alphabet Project, the main sponsor of the Irie Institute, are a group of people who want to develop a weapon that should act as a deterrent to the nuclear weapons which Japan is forbidden to own. So they've come to the Irie Institute, and of its branch organizations, to tell us Japan has now renounced nuclear arms. So the Irie Institute will be facing a strong cold headwind from now on. The roll of the die that came up with one on that stormy day has reappeared. I won't let the result of a die affect me. I saw this dude in a uniform in the anime. Yeah, you never see Jiro in that, uniform, unfortunately. I won't let the result of a die affect me. And the power of my will won't be beaten by some god's roll of the dice. Therefore, we're going to restructure the Alphabet Project to one that's more suitable for the day and age. This new Alphabet Project will be tasked with figuring out the best way for this country to achieve a larger presence in world affairs, not through militaristic means, but through peaceful measures like international trade and economic development. Of all people who hold tremendous and politics and economy of Japan were burned before the war, so naturally they want to regain the glory of pre-war Japan. The very idea that we can win next time if we research the new bomb that defeated us is itself a specter of the war. No, everyone already realized that. It was just no one could speak out against the grandstanding elders they owed their gratitude towards. Soon the old will wither away and the new generation will take control. Uncle Koizumi was in a way the last remaining pillar for the old generation. His death is a chance for the new generation to step in. The things they couldn't argue openly are now being discussed. They pointed out from the beginning, the Alphabet Project was created for the personal satisfaction of a small group of people, and it sucked money out of the treasury. So the new generation of politicians have taken over from the old. Therefore, everything the Alphabet Project was sponsoring will have to be re-reviewed. Of course, the Erie Institute is one of those subsidiaries. We hope that you understand and respond amicably. I understand. We can't do research without our sponsors, after all. We'll give you our full cooperation. Erie responded appropriately, but he's obviously bewildered. The best equipment and staff are being provided to the Erie Institute. In other words, our research requires a huge amount of money. For those with no interest in Hinamizawa syndrome, they probably won't be able to understand why that much money is being put into the research of disgusting parasites. If they're simply going to revise our budget, that would be fine. Receiving more than enough money, that would naturally be adjusted. It hurts, but we can endure. That's what I thought. But just enduring is enough. It wouldn't be a 1 on the die. So even in that sense, this is definitely a roll of the die coming up as 1. Anyway, the new board of directors was inaugurated back in April, and they've outlined their new policies for all projects. For more details, please look through the papers I'll be handing out. These papers were then passed around. Sorry to go over the details, but I read through so quickly that I could learn about their stupid decisions first. The Erie Institute has made great headway in uncovering the mystery of the Hinamizawa syndrome, as well as creating a cure for the disease. The board of directors is extremely pleased. We recognize this is due to the unceasing efforts of Director Irie and all the staff of the Erie Institute. Thank you. From all who received their congratulations, a tense atmosphere surrounded me and Irie. It's customary to start the conversation in the opposite way you're planning to take it, or delving into your main point to convey. The main issue is something good, then start with something bad, or vice versa. The Erie Institute had 2 main intentions. One was to study the disease and hopefully find a cure. The other was to research the possibility of utilizing the disease for military applications. The new board of directors has decided to put a stop to the latter immediately. In this day and age, researching biological weapons is an Achilles heel for Japan. The Erie Institution must cease all related research and destroy any results. I understand. I will comply. Erie applied with that immediately. He was assertive about finding a cure, but was never even remotely interested in researching the disease as a use for military purposes. So I'm sure he has no qualms about concurring with such demands. But I don't agree, because our research will be more limited if we're just trying to find a cure. Oh my gosh, what do you mean I can't research something to... Basically, Takano is angry because she can't commit crimes against humanity. Effectively. Somehow that's intrinsic to her research. This is why I don't have that much sympathy for her. I mean, I feel bad that it's like, I mean, it's absolutely horrible. But, like, she's a dadgum. She goes from understandable, I want to repay back the person who, like, sacrificed so much for stuff like that, by discovering his research is legitimate, which, arguably, she has. It's just, the project is currently secret. A big part of that is because it's they're doing the stuff for, like, military purposes. If they rebrand it as it's only ever been about medicine. Also, we've never done anything like perform vivisections on people. We do not support that. You know, it really probably wouldn't be as much of an issue to eventually get the results released and stuff like that. The job would be completed. But it's not about that, ultimately. Anyway. It's about the wound that she's been festering for since childhood. Which... Do you mean I can't commit crimes against humanity? What? Geneva Convention? Never heard of it. Seriously, Takato is such an archetypical, like... And I will say the game arguably does, like... we'll have to, I'm gonna interested to see how it, like, pans out or whatever. But... even though she's obviously done enough to make it where it's, like, to where, like, sympathy as a viewer kind of runs out for her. Or it's like, we feel bad, but also, you a psycho bitch, you need to calm down. You torture children. Because for lulz. You become the very thing that you hate. That you hated when you were a child. You become that. In fact, arguably, you've gone past that. You basically took your childhood trauma and was like, you know what? I can do better. I'm going to inflict way more on way more people. It's going to be awesome. Oh, gosh. So, but the game still managed to somehow do better than a lot of, like, the trying to make villains sympathetic. You know. Which I'm all for that. It's just a lot of like, stuff it just, like, it aren't that good at it. This game is actually good at it. But it still leaves you at the point where it's like, the point of, and this is about where the point where I go like, yeah, no. The slack has run out. Or even though we're learning about your backstory, we're still gonna be like, yeah, no. But the game, obviously, it still doesn't come off across as, like, because of how it's going about it and stuff like that, it really doesn't come across as, like, really... It leaves a lot up to the audience to, like, kind of think that, and that's something I very much appreciated. Even in, like, the post stuff, when it's just, like, the creator, like, the dev talking or whatever, you're having a little stuff or whatever, you get that vibe, and it's kind of like, yeah. You know, there's something they have in mind, but they're not, like, discounting, you know, like, the thing, and they're willing to ask, like, questions that, of their audience, you know, that, you know, it's done in a genuine sense, and it's not pretentious at all. I really appreciate it when media does that. I really like it. I respect. Match respect. If you do that, and you're a content creator, you're a Giga Chad. Okay? Do stuff nuancedly. Show that stuff is messy. And let the audience kind of come up with their own, you know, a lot of it that is, you know. Anyway, here. Because we may not be able to make it through the fragments tonight. Anyway, but I don't agree. Our research will be more limited if we're just trying to find a cure. To me, finding that cure is simply a byproduct of my logic goal of discovering everything about the syndrome. Well, when do you know you've discovered everything? And what do you mean by everything? Most people would say, discovering the pathogen, verifying its existence. Discovering a course of treatment. At that point, you would want to, like, learn how to more... Anyway. See, I can't understand it until I've decided it as a weapon somehow, for some reason. Oh, gosh. Just be thankful someone like Takano wasn't working on the Manhattan Project. If it was Takano instead of Oppenheimer, oh my gosh. What do you mean the Department of Defense doesn't think a nuclear bomb that could destroy several continents is somewhat overzealous? What do you mean? Till I understand everything. Till I can make a bomb that destroys a whole planet, I will not understand nuclear weapons, apparently. Oh gosh, if Takano was... Also, regarding the Erie Institution, we decided to have you wrap up your work within the next 3 years. Your budget will decrease gradually as well. Yeah, yeah. Phil, have fun sleeping tonight while thinking of Takano as... working on the A-bomb. Gosh. Like, I have become Death, Destroyer of Worlds. Lol, not yet, though. I could do better. That's how you can fetch your ducky. Wait, please. I recently figured out anything about the syndrome, and there's more we have to learn in order to create a better cure. Making progress, but I can't guarantee the complete cure within 3 years. It's the understanding of the board that Erie Institute has already completed enough research to develop a cure. Erie Institute has already completed the C117 vaccine and has done a great deal of clinical data. No, it's not even close to being completed. Still only a prototype, far from being able to see a cure for all the villagers. Debating the end of our research at this stage can only be described as absolutely positively reckless. I'm surprised that Irie objected. Still, I didn't have to say anything. And if Irie hadn't objected, I'm sure I would have shrieked and protested. In other words, the Irie Institute is not yet capable of curing all the people who are infected, or to fully eradicate the syndrome. Is that correct? Yes. Of course, curing all the villagers and eradicating the will be possible in the future, and that's our ultimate goal. But I need more time and funding to do that. Our job is to investigate, find a practice that works, and establish it as a product. This isn't a job where you can follow a blueprint to create something with certainty in a set time frame. So we hope that you'll avoid following that misconception. I guess Irie speaks out when he needs to. What he's saying is absolutely right. Research isn't something guaranteed to produce results with money and time. But I disagree with some of the things he said. He's objecting about time and money, but he's basically agreeing to limit our research only towards finding a cure for Hinamizawa syndrome. That won't do. Won't unravel any mysteries that way. Right, the discovery of the Hinami syndrome will be recognized as my grandfather's great achievement. What do you need to accomplish for that? I don't... whatever. She's crazy. That's all we can say. That's moving on. See. I think I see your point. Our main purpose here is to dispose the fact that this research was conducted for military purposes. So we must forever hide the fact that your research was conducted on the strange disease called... We must forever hide the fact that research was conducted on the strange disease called Hinamizawa syndrome, as well as hide its existence. You can eradicate the disease without anyone ever learning about it, and we'll give you the time and funding you require. But we'll discuss more about that later. Is that acceptable? Yes, I have no problem with that. And please, submit a plan and budget proposal for eradicating the syndrome in secrecy. We'll do our best on our part to prove your proposal. Thank you. I'll work on it immediately. Please don't misunderstand that it's our intention to halt that research immediately. We want to see the best possible outcome for your work. Please understand that. Yes, of course, I understand. Listening to the conversation, I was struck dumbfounded with something they said. That's gonna be a secret. Eradicating this syndrome in secrecy. In other words, would have been as though Hinamizawa syndrome never existed. So my grandfather's name will never be revered by anyone. The sound of rustling papers and hushed proceedings filled the meeting rooms, but I only heard the ticking clock as I clutched my sweaty palms. And then she goes, psycho killer, kuskase, ba 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 ba. Hey, Nakagawa-kun, time no see. Still at it lately? You know that. You know that? Ha 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 ha. No, not at all. It's no fun getting old. You gotta concentrate when you work with clay. You put it off for a long time, your senses get dull, and there's no point. Sensei, allow me to introduce someone. This is Major Takano. Very nice to meet you. Thank you for taking time to meet with me today. I truly appreciate it. We didn't make time for you, actually. I was told that I could have some good raw sea urchins. Sea urchins are good for you, did you know? Rich in vitamin A, and they're good for your skin. Women like sea urchins, right? It is true that sea urchins are rich in vitamin A, but compared to spinach, it's not anything that's worth making a fuss about. Well, none of that matters right now. He just seems like an unpleasant man, so I wanted to criticize him. These men are the directors of the Alphabet Project, who control the funding for the Erie Institute. They're also people who are in the position of being able to offer their opinions to those directors. To put it in a simpler way, they are the new owners of the Erie Institute. Although not as much as Uncle Koizumi was, they are also leaders and influencers in various fields. I have to be very careful not to upset them. Therefore, there's no way I would have had the ability to call them in. By using the influence that the Koizumi faction once had, I finally managed to get this chance. Uncle Koizumi, who gave me his full support and made everything go my way, is not here anymore. I'm on my own from this point on, and I will open up a path. But this stage doesn't belong to me today. I can't let the people who offered me this chance lose face, so I have to wait patiently until it's my turn. My primary objective today is to explain what a prominent research subject the Hinamizawa syndrome is, and acquire an indefinite extension for our research. They only ever think about money, so they aren't even realizing the hidden potential of Hinamizawa syndrome. They don't recognize that it's worth spending a lot of money on. This is not mere research, or the existence of an unknown parasite, but something that may overthrow the basic foundations of anthropology. A Nobel Prize wouldn't even be enough. Don't be easy trying to explain all that to men who know nothing about any of it, but I have to. That's why I spent many hours making these straightforward support documents. Sometimes we make documents confusing on purpose because we don't like dealing with uneducated people, but this time it's different. I can't look down at them. I must sincerely try to make them understand. The accessible support documents are there in a huge pile. It feels like we're wasting time eating traditional Japanese food in such a relaxed mood. I want to get to the point and explain to them in detail so they can understand. There is the saying, luck lies in the last helping. I have to be patient right now. Frank, I thought the Alphabet Project wasn't that good, and it's been nothing but a sandbox for the old men with their heads still stuck in the Pacific War. Nothing but a sandbox for those old men to craft their dreams of Imperial Japan's revival with money that isn't theirs. Do you know how much public funding was wasted on those delusions? From what I heard, there are already prosecutors poking people like Okuno-sensei and trying to pin embezzlement on the old board of directors. That's what you get for trying to suck up to those old men. Of course, none of it can be made public, so I guess they'll be held responsible or demoted in another form. This is what the country gets for letting these ghosts of the war run around freely all this time. Boy, these grilled sea urchins are fantastic. This is harsh. It's extremely difficult to ask this of all you when you feel that way, but might have a moment of your time. You're from the Erie Institute, aren't you? You're researching some kind of local disease in Nagano or Gifu, right? What's going on down there? The board has decided to halt the research for military application. Research project itself is to wrap up within 3 years as well. Oh, sorry, that's still being discussed. No, our work is scheduled to be shut down within a few years. Ah, yes, I remember now. Your institute had a bad reputation even among the old board of directors. After all, it sucked up huge funds with barely any inspections. I don't know why, but someone I kept pushing for it for some reason. Because of that, nobody could really say anything about it and it was left alone. But you know, that guy loved to flirt around with women, so maybe that had something to do with it. Is he implying I slept with Uncle Koizumi? He's insulting both of us. But I held my anger in. I can't let myself be bothered by something like this. Wait, today I would like to explain to you the details of our institute's research and ask you to reconsider your decision. I truly appreciate you taking the time out of your busy schedule to attend to this meeting today. Well, I guess they don't give out free sea urchins for nothing, huh? Explain to them how much the Hinamizawa syndrome mattered, being careful not to go too fast. I tried to let them know that the syndrome's potential is not limited to small things like military application, but it's much more meaningful than that. I explain ideology and religion. I even shake the very definition of a human being. I took my time to explain as slowly and clearly as possible. Not confident that all had gotten through to those boorish men, but I'm happy if they understood even just a part of it. As long as they understand how much of a magnificent discovery Hinamizawa syndrome really is. Thank you, Measure. I see. I'd like to discuss among ourselves, so could you please excuse yourself? Yes, thank you. Obviously, they can't discuss it in front of me. I left all the documents with them. All I could do now was hope they viewed them favorably. The room and closed the sliding door. The room next door is a preparation room, so I was to head there, but I stopped. I should have done it, but I tried to listen through the sliding door. Well, I don't know what to say. Sorry for everyone on the previous board of directors. I know how you feel. Izumi-sensei pushed this so strongly. I met him once before when he became founding director of Pharmaceuticals. Seemed like a very intelligent person to me. I guess you just can't win against age. Makes you realize how important it is for humans to know when to pull out. It's a fact that this very rare disease called Hinamizawa syndrome really exists, so not everything is the delusion. I hear the Erie Institute has already succeeded in identifying the disease and developing a treatment. Isn't that enough? In modern Japan, we have to be very careful of things that might make neighboring countries nervous, and military-related issues are the most sensitive ones. At the very least, we must erase the fact that research for military purpose has been going on for the past few years immediately. Is that separate from simply discontinuing the military research, then? Yeah, when we stopped it immediately, the fact this Hinamizawa syndrome was being researched in order to create a biological weapon remains. We should hide the fact, no matter what purpose the research ends up being used for. If possible, it'd be best if Hinamizawa syndrome just disappears. That's true. If disease remains, then sooner or later someone will become curious about it and dig up the hole we filled. I think we should follow the decision of the board of directors. As soon as the Erie Institute eradicates this disease, we should have them destroy all evidence of their work before disbanding. I guess that's for the best. It's not even a matter of a Nobel Prize, it's just useless for post-war Japan. Besides, this disease has existed for hundreds of years, right? We made it this far without any problems. From the start, I thought this amounted to little more than just poking around in the bushes. Me too. I don't doubt the existence of the syndrome, but Takano, who discovered the disease, is exaggerating more than a little. He had quite a unique interpretation of things. First of all, I've never heard of a parasite that's capable of controlling people's thoughts. It's just too much. If you tried to explain religions with this, then Buddha, Christ, all those people would be what? Was it again queen carriers? Tried exposing something like this would be attacked by every nation on the planet. Religion is pretty scary nowadays. There are parasites that live in animal brains, and I guess we can say there are parasites that live in human brains too. But for them to control human thoughts, that's a bit too unique, you know. As I peeked in through the gap in the sloping door, I became trapped with an unbelievable sense of deja vu. This is my first time experiencing this, but it doesn't feel that way. I don't know why, but the memory is so sad and so painful. Huh? Huh? Why tears? I realized it. I saw a very nostalgic carpeted room on the other side of the sliding door instead of a room covered in tatami mats. The room is filled with the smell of dust mixed with the smell of some evaporated medicine, but it's very soothing to me just the same. And there is my grandfather. His article that he poured his heart into was made a mockery of, and he wasn't even allowed to cry. This isn't a delusion. Because within the documents I left with those men, there are a lot of references to the article my grandfather wrote. So I'm not surprised for my grandfather to be standing right there explaining it to them himself. Together with my tears from seeing the sight of my beloved grandfather, I watched these men insult and belittle his masterpiece. Seen this sight before. Sight should have ended there. Why is he repeating before my eyes? I can only blank through the sliding door at this strange world where reality and illusion overlap. The Major's a little strange. Kazumi-sensei believed in something as ridiculous as this. It's a little strange too. But the strangest one of all is the person who wrote this article in the first place. It blends together expectations and delusions. Looks more like fiction than a thesis. I think this will be a big hit once it gets published, you know. You're absolutely right. I have a friend who's the head of a publishing company. I bet he'll love this. Ha! This is not a laughing matter, gentlemen. A huge amount of money was poured in this over the past few years. The worst thing is, the equipment used to gas the villagers in case of emergency have already been procured. Our people must never learn about this. For such a plan to exist is scary enough. But people find out about this equipment, the whole country will turn against us. On top of that, the cost to maintain this equipment is enormous. You don't really think it's being maintained, do you? Surely this whole project is some kind of money laundering scheme. What did they say anyway? If one girl died, the whole village will go crazy at once? What kind of comic book is this? Exactly. Someone actually believes such a childish story and put a huge amount of money into it. But that's crazy. It's too ridiculous that someone actually took these documents seriously. As he said that, he placed the documents down with an exaggerated gesture. Should I say he slammed them down, because the papers end up scattered all over the floor. Too right. Excuse me. I need to use the bathroom. One of the men stood up and stepped on the papers. And they weren't the papers on the tatami mats, but the ones in the carpet. Right there, I can see my grandfather filled with heart-rending sadness. Can't let it show on his face. Grandfather's expression didn't change. It seemed distorted to me. I could see the walls of my grandfather's study crumpling and twisting behind him. I jumped into the room. I grabbed onto the men's legs. I don't hate him. It's not whether I hate him or not. Surely I hate him, but that's not it. I just can't forgive the feet stepping on my grandfather's article. Don't step on them. My grandfather wrote them. Please don't step on them. Oh, sorry. Those feet are still stepping on the papers. I tried to make them move, but they won't even budge as though they've grown roots. So I begged as I grabbed onto his legs. I tried to pull the papers from under his feet, but I can't move his feet. I can't pull the papers. Step on them. Don't step on them. My grandpa's. Don't step on them. My sobbing echoed in that silent room, just like it did back then. Once again, it's sad, but it maybe would have been better. I'm guessing she referenced a lot of the more outlandish claims of the stuff, which, once again, that hurts your case more. See, saying like parasites influence, if you got one that it's been, or whatever, that like the Hinamisawa syndrome, but say, yes, this influences human behavior and stuff like that. And by researching this, we could help prevent diseases in others. That would be reasonable. But when you look at everything and be like, yep, ideology, religion, all that, parasites. Obviously. That's a bit different. Because you would have to, I mean, the thing is that needing to, the fact that there was military applications on all the unethical stuff, that's the big problem and what they're trying to hide. It's not just the fact that there's a syndrome or whatever. If it was that, then, and it'd be going, now by researching and make this stuff known, an excuse is not, excuse for action. Yeah. And a lot of what she's doing is honestly, it's causing, because of her personal grudges and stuff like that, she's actually getting in her way of, like, the goal that she supposedly have, which is to make her grandfather's, you know, basically say, hey, my grandfather was on to something. Respect him. Listen. There's been a lot of research in the past have thought up, like, crazy stuff that we kind of forget the, like, crazier parts and remember all, like, the actual, like, contributions. And we all just kind of go, yeah, they were out to lunch on the other stuff, but this stuff they were really good on it, you know, I respect that. Yeah, yeah. That's not an outlandish thing, that's a thing that happens. And, you know, it's worth mentioning, you know, he may have got, considering all the time that he spent researching it and going in, obviously, to Himizawa, he may have gotten infected with the parasite himself. And which probably also messed with his thinking when he was, like, you know, being largely alone and stuff like that. Oh, gosh. Once again, Takano, you are a mess. Okay, let me... oh, gosh. I hate to cut it here, but... I think we're gonna have to... I wanted to fin up, like, the fragments, but... we've still got quite a few. 1, 2, and 3... 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. Oh, gosh. That's even more than I thought. I remember when I was looking online, kind of like that I did come across like on lengths or whatever, that apparently this one is like, there's portions of it that are way longer than anything, which I'm guessing this one is. But I am excited to see how, like, this is going to turn out, because we're getting so much on, like, the back stuff and, like, all the gaps filled in. Especially, it's cool to see stuff that was, like, kind of hinted about. You know, like, okay, yup. I thought there was something there. Okay, so we'll continue that next time. Oh. But thank you all very much for joining me, and I hope you enjoyed as much as I did, or even more so than I did. Yes. Despite my comments and stuff like that, listen, it just means I'm getting into the story. That's what this means, okay? When I'm going aside or whatever like this, this means I'm getting really into it. You know? Right? Alright. But thanks again. And I hope you all enjoyed it. Yes.